astronauts, this is Randy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. If you're not familiar with my channel, I like to combine astrology and tarot to make accurate predictions. And this week's pick a card is the July 2025 pick a card. I've just started doing these monthly readings and so far you astronauts seem to enjoy them. So I'm going to keep it up. I meant to say continue, but keep it up became one word. Anyway, before we get started, I do want to remind you to like, comment, and to subscribe. And don't forget, I go live every week on the weekends. That's that is Saturday, Sunday, Friday. The time is posted on the community tab, Eastern Standard Time. I do, however, pop up either Monday or Thursday. I'm filming this ahead of time, so right now we're in the process, but it is looking like Monday and Thursday, so check that out or be on the lookout for any pop-ups. I offer private readings periodically. Check the form in the description bar, see if it's open. If it's open, then go ahead and get a reading, and if not, then you will have to wait until it's open again. Now, let us jump into these piles. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. Links to any social media can be found below, and just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey pile number 1, let's get started on your July 2025. We have the 8 of Cups as where your current energy is. The Ace of Swords. Excuse me one second. Gosh. Oh, my stomach. Anyway, we have the 3 of Wands. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just going through it. And we have the Death card. 3 of Wands, love. Death card is just general energies for the month. Wheel of Fortune is career, reputation, etc. And we have the Moon card, Soul, to also give us a more general vibe for the month. We also have the Astro Dice. Love my little Astro Dice. Let's get into this. I'm excited. Oh, we have the first house with Libra and Neptune. You know, to me, when I first see this, it feels to me like a little bit of a glow up. But also at the same time, one thing that, let me start from the beginning. It feels a little bit like the glow up because if you've seen my Neptune beauty study video, and if you haven't, it should be on this channel, but it is also on my focused astrology channel, which I have linked in my channel page. Neptune on the ascendant, Neptune in the ascendant, can bring about a very magnetic, beautiful, attractive appearance or energy. And I feel as though this is saying that this month there may be even more so of a focus on the appearance and the sense of, up leveling yourself, having a bit of a glow up, things like that happening and occurring. Just more so on a superficial level, especially since Libra is a sign of balance here. And there also can be, when it comes to this energy of Libra in the first house, you might be in a place where you're looking for more balance. You're looking forward to creating relationships. You might even want to create relationships with people who are a bit more so on the esoteric vibe, because Neptune does rule that sort of spiritual, witchy nature. But then this can also represent wanting to be closer to those who are highly ambitious, people who they have a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Alternative lifestyle. Anything that may be a little bit counterculture. Neptune can be sometimes like that. Not always, but sometimes it does dabble into that energy. The second thing I want to say about Neptune, which I have not made a study on, but I have made some observations, is Neptune can bring about this very powerful energy. And it's almost magnetic in a way that's not like, oh, I'm fascinated by you in terms of attraction, but it can bring a sense of fascination in terms of the emotional outpouring. One thing you may see about people who have powerful Neptune aspects is people will say it's like the emotions will just radiate off of them. You know, you ever have that person who, like, when they step into a room or when you have a conversation with them, you just feel like you're being pulled in to their world. Like there's a sense of intensity there. You know, for example, there was, the character, the person, James Gandolfi, who played Tony Soprano. And one thing, first of all, his castmates loved him, right? In real life, he was kind, he was generous, you know, very much like the Neptunian high level energy. But there was this side that people said, you know, sometimes you could just feel like the frustration. Sometimes you could feel like when he was having a bad day or something along the lines of like the energy just shifted. And not only that, but because he was the star of the show and the show was HBO's front runner, he was pretty much like carried the weight of the lives of, my God, probably thousands of people, because this was a very intensive show, at least hundreds, right? It all depends and anchors on this person. And it's kind of funny because Neptune itself looks like an anchor. And so for this month, it may even feel as though you have people who are anchored to you, who you feel a sense of responsibility towards, or people maybe sort of like picking up more so on your emotions or vice versa. You might even feel more in tuned or more empathic when it comes to how you are living your life this month. One thing that I will also say about Neptune energy, pretty stereotypical, is that this month you might feel a little bit tired. You may feel like you don't want to work so hard or something along the lines of that. But like I said, it can also do something that is the exact opposite, where it can make somebody, you know, drown in their work. Feel a sense of weight, feel a sense of heaviness, and just have this sense of like strong focus and ambition and really dive in. It really is extremes when it comes to astrology. And to me, because it's in the sign of Libra, the extremities, they're probably a little bit better at trying to find balance, but Neptune energy is so out there. It's so unpredictable. It's so changeable that it can feel as though you are constantly trying to balance both sides of your character this month. Like it may feel like you have a side to you that just really wants to do nothing and hang around and chill all day. But then the other part of you has these big dreams that you're focusing on building towards. That's something I want to say. And also Neptune and Libra can be like, hey, I have big dreams of putting myself out there to an audience, big or a clientele or something along the lines of that. Just making that connection there when it comes to Libra. And then obviously Neptune's connection in Libra can just mean, you know, rose-colored glasses when it comes to relationships, or even like this Three of Wands here, having foresights or visions about relationships. And same with Neptune on the ascendant. It can also bring about a sense of psychicness, which I think one of the first things I mentioned, spiritualness, psychicness. So you are in the place of the Eight of Cups. And I think that is absolutely powerful, because the Eight of Cups tells me that you're ready to move on to something better. And it's interesting on this card, it's almost set up in the same way the Seven of Cups would be, where you have all these different options spread out in front of you. But because we know that the Eight of Cups is about moving on to better things, it's almost like you have these options to move on to those better places where you have, you have the options in your mind in terms of what direction you're planning to go towards that is better. Let me be clear. Versus the Seven of Cups is still in the process of contemplating and decision making. You're ready to move forward to that better place. In fact, you are probably taking steps to move forward. This can also symbolize that emotional growth, that development when it comes to how you are learning from certain lessons you may have learned in your life as a person, and you're moving on to a different stage. And you might have feel like you've outgrown the life or circumstance that you're currently in. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's just how things are, your daily routine. Maybe it's a job. You know, there's a lot of things we outgrow, but it shows to me that you are literally taking steps to move to these better places, to move to these better options that you can see in front of you. You're not thinking about it anymore. You're taking action to leave something behind. And I'm sure that it will be different for everyone here. And it's even showing with this Ace of Cups. Because when we have cups together, it's a little bit like Uno, you know, where you can stack things that are in common on top of each other. If you have 2 fours, you can stack the fours. If you have a green, you can stack a green on top of a green. Same with the energy when it comes to tarot cards. If you have 2 cups, you know, you can connect these things together. It's a pretty solid, smooth connection from one thing to the other. Spirit's trying to say something. And so what I see here is obviously you're moving on emotionally when it comes to finances. And that could be different for everyone. So it could be that you had some sort of emotional connection when it came to your finances, and maybe it was a healthy emotional connection. Maybe it was an unhealthy emotional connection. More than likely, it was probably unhealthy and you're moving to a better place. But it is what it is, right? You're moving on in terms of that connection. So for example, you may have always seen money as a thing that you always have to be concerned about. Like you would have to hoard onto it, or you'll lose it, or you have to scrape and scramble. And otherwise, you know, if a rainy day comes about or emergency comes about, you know, you won't have anything to support yourself. Like there might have been a sense of fear there. Not saying that that was happening, but there could have been. And when we're talking about moving on from out of that place, it's like you're no longer taking that emotional perspective when it comes to finances and stability within your life. So I'm not saying that you're particularly going through that, but everyone has a different emotional connection to money, and yours is evolving into something new, something different, something that will bring you more peace. And we already know that the 8 of Cups represents moving towards something better. And so when we have this Ace of Cups here, and you have a new way, a new approach when it comes to your financial situation, it looks like things are lightening up. Things are feeling like optimistic. There is a sense of hope and vitality and refreshness, and maybe even feels like you have a fresh start. You know, maybe you felt like you've paid off a bill or a loan or a credit card debt or something along the lines of that. It could be any type of thing. And you're like, oh, finally, I've gotten rid of that. And now I have this clean slate when it comes to the financial area of my life. Like there's a sense of relief there. It could be like something along the lines of that. This house also connects to a sense of self-esteem and self-worth. Now, the cups are very interesting when it comes to self-esteem, because from what I have seen when it comes to cups, there is a sense of fluidity there, meaning the self-esteem can be very changeable throughout the month. When you feel really, really good about, you know, the things that are happening in your life, you might have very high self-esteem. And when you feel like things might not be going your way, that self-esteem might go down a little bit. And that's very Ace of Cups here, right? So it just shows that throughout this month, there is a sense of changeability when it comes to how you feel about yourself and how you're moving about the world. And that makes sense when we have this moon card here, right? You can even see the phases on the moon of this card. The moon has a changeable nature. And that's similar to how you will feel about yourself this month. That is part of the reason why we have this moon representation here. Things are changing and things are shifting. There's a lot of different circumstances that you are going through. And it's not like, oh, every day my self-esteem is high and I feel great about myself. Some days, especially when we have moon card energy, it's all about feeling a sense of reassurance, about leaning on others, about having someone say, hey, you know what? I know you don't feel the best today, but you've always been a great and beautiful friend to me, or you've always been a supportive partner, and things along the lines of that. And I love you, and giving that reassurance. You may want more of that this month. And you might even be reaching out to reassure others. The Ace of Cups can generally make you feel just a bit sensitive, to be completely honest. Also, when it comes to the area of finances, the Ace of Cups can represent just spending your money based off of your emotions. So you may feel as though you would like to do something nice for yourself, right? You're like, hey, you know, I've been working hard, or I just feel like I haven't done something nice for myself in a while. Why don't I take myself out on a solo date and treat myself? And that's what I say, the cups are very interesting when it comes to the financial area, because it's less about, you know, practical building or thinking strategically. It's just like, hey, you know what? I've got to live my life, and I want to live my life in a way that makes me feel good. And so you're using your finances to bring about positive, better, more uplifting experiences for you. And you may feel like, I no longer, like if you're a person who was like that scrimp and scram person, you might be like, I no longer feel guilty for buying things that make me feel good about me, or buying things that help me enjoy my life. Like that's very Ace of Cups, you know? So that's what I say about the financial state this month. I'm not going to say that you'll never be frustrated when it comes to your finances. Like I said, the moon is very changeable, but to me, it seems as though you're moving in a different direction, where you're not holding on to anything that is negative or is detrimental towards you in the long run financially. If you spend a little too much, you're like, okay, that wasn't that great. But you're not holding on to that feeling. You know, you're not like beating yourself up over it. You're like, okay, wasn't my best move. You know, I'll move a little bit differently. Okay, that's what I like about this energy here. And also when I see the Ace of Cups, when it comes to this new emotional start, this new beginning, and also I get the Ace of Cups just to mean an abundance of emotion. When it comes to the family, you know, it just feels as though you have maybe a new perspective on your family, or for some of you, maybe you're reconnecting. And then for some of you, this can also represent a new family member, or even just news about a new family member. I will be honest, I usually get Pentacles more for like a physical person coming into the world, but Ace of Cups is not unusual. It does represent a new beginning when it comes to the family. And this can also represent that, let's say you were going through some issues with your family, and now those issues have resolved. How they resolve, I don't know. But it does kind of represent certain issues being like done, certain issues being over. Like there's this new emotional landscape that you're stepping into as a family. All right. And like I said, it could be like I'm cutting off my family, or it could be like, hey, I'm deciding to, you know, forgive and forget, or I'm looking at them from a new lens and a new perspective. And I'm learning more about my family as well, because the Eight of Cups can represent research. All right, I think I've said enough about this category. Let's move on a little bit. You know, I'm not trying to make these things long. I've been making them long. So we have the Wheel of Fortune when it comes to the 10th house, career. This is definitely a powerful shift. I've gotten this card for career certain months, and what has happened is basically things start changing. And it's generally things changing for the better. In my case, it was more so that the work environment was shifting to an environment that was best suited for me in order to complete my job. That is essentially what happened for me. I don't want to get into specifics, that's more personal, but ultimately it represented like a shift towards something that can make things feel a little bit lighter for me. So it doesn't feel as heavy as when I come into work. Like I have more freedom. And I want to emphasize that a little bit. You know, I read from an astrological and a tarot perspective. And one thing that I need to tell you about Jupiter, if you're not familiar, Jupiter is this boundless, you can't pin me down planet. If you've ever met somebody Jupiterian, they can be someone who doesn't like to be restrained. And it's like, who are you to tell me what to do? And things along the lines of that. What their sense of restraint is if they're doing it. But if anything's imposed on them, they get this kind of expansive, explosive type energy, right? So Jupiter is about freedom. It's about expansion. It's about growth. So there may be more freedoms coming to you when it comes to work. It may be more space. Like, for example, if you had someone who was like a very micromanager, or you worked with a team all day, every day, and you never had a sense of autonomy, this is like, hey, you've got a little bit more space. And then also this can represent, you know, implementing more of your own ideas, having those being panned out, being listened to, and actually maybe even come to some sort of compromises when it comes to how things are being played out in the workspace. It's not just the employers always getting what they want. It's like the employees are also getting something that they want. And I think that makes a lot of sense given that we have this Libra Neptune energy, because if you see my Neptune video, I end the video by saying Neptune is free. And so when we're talking about Libra and we're talking about Neptune coming together, Libra is the 10th from the 10th, meaning it rules the 7th house, is 10 places from Capricorn, 10th from the 10th house. And so it's like a higher version of career. And so this can also bring about freedoms within your career. Don't get me wrong, since this is first house, more than likely you may have had some sort of say within these sort of freedoms that are coming within the work environment, but it just generally represents change, represents a new development, and it represents a shift. And you might even find yourself, maybe you're like, I'm a little bit more sociable this month. Just because Jupiter can be a very sociable planet, all right? Not all the time, but generally they have friends or people they can call or rely on to some degree. Just think of like Kris Jenner or someone like that, right? Like making those connections, the Kris Jenner effect. And so there may be a sense of like sociability, gathering, coming together, making different connections, or learning a bit more about people inherently. Okay, that is something that I want to say when it comes to that. But ultimately, what we have here is a transformation of your work environment for the better. And maybe for some of you, if you are fun employed, this is an opportunity for a job. I only say that because if we're talking about career, I sort of read this as like the 10th house, and Jupiter in the 10th house can do several things. It can give you like a reputation, a positive one, generally, not all the time, but from my experience and what I've seen, it generally gives a more positive reputation. It's like, oh, this person is such a hard worker. It can give you like long-term references. You know, when I've had Jupiter transits to my work houses, which is like 10th house, 6th house, 2nd houses, I had more of a positive reputation in those areas, and they were basically references that I could use long term because of that positive reputation. So you might even have more of a positive reputation this month, or maybe you just have the reputation for being the person who can bring about change, bring about transformation. I will say Jupiter energy is a heaviness. So in terms of your own reputation, there is a sense of seriousness. Jupiter is the heaviest planet. It's the biggest planet. And so your presence carries a lot of weight this month. I do want to say that when it comes to the work environment. So if you feel like you've been unheard, or like you've been treated as this sort of meek mice like character, this is like, hey, I'm a big gun, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a lion. I am here to let you hear my roar. You know, it's a very fierce type of energy coming in here. But I do see a change of luck for the better, whether that's improvements in the work environment, where's the opportunity to get a job, whether that's making connections, whether that's having more freedoms, whether that's a raise. You know, maybe that's happening here too. Maybe a title change, whatever the case may be. That is what this can bring about. We also have this Three of Wands when it comes to the fun that you are having this month and the love as well. But let's start with the love because everyone wants to hear the love. Three of Wands is looking for the next thing. Now, I do want to say this could be whether you're single or whether you're in a relationship, all right? It's all about, well, what else is out there? You know, like, because I feel like I have been scouting and looking at people, and maybe I've even flirted a little bit with somebody or, you know, a person or two, excuse me, my voice, a person or two. And now I'm interested in seeing, you know, maybe the grass is greener on the other side. The Two of Wands and the Three of Wands definitely bring about that energy of envisioning the future and envisioning what's next. Now, if you have that strong sense of loyalty, then obviously you're probably not looking outside of your relationship. This just represents trying to picture where this is going. Maybe you feel things are getting a little bit serious and you're just like, well, what track are we on in terms of our relationship? Am I going to marry this person? Are we going to live together? Are we going to have children together? Like, what does our life look like? There is a sense of picturing, looking ahead, you know, trying to figure out where things are and where things are going. All right, there is that. And then also, since it's the Three of Wands, it does represent a period of waiting. And so maybe you've sort of put things out there for your partner in terms of like, hey, I think that we should get an apartment together. And they're like, you know what, I think I need some time to, you know, think about that, or some time to structure my life in a different way so that things feel more stable. And you're waiting for things to turn around, or you're waiting for an answer, or you're waiting for something. That can be a possibility. This can also represent ghosting for people, right? Like with the Three of Wands here, waiting for their ships to come in. You've sent some text messages and you're like, I'm waiting to hear back from this person and I just haven't heard back from them. And people can ghost in relationships or outside of relationships. I have definitely learned that. And so there could be that going on, but you know, I don't want to just harp on negative interpretations. If you're truly single, meaning you're not talking to anybody or anything, this can just be like, hey, I'm waiting for my time. I'm waiting for my right person. I feel like I've put myself out there. I feel like I have been making moves to meet people. And I'm kind of just waiting for someone to, you know, come my way who I might be really interested in, who I might be looking to build a connection with, build something committed, something lasting. Because you have to remember the Three of Wands is looking to go to the Four of Wands. That is what their next step is. That committed, happy celebration, wedding that we see on the cards. Now I want to say that this is my after tarot deck. And on this after tarot deck, this is about having this hawk, you know, be here. And I don't know if the hawk it looks like the hawk is leaving. I don't know if they left something behind and they're sending a new message. Maybe on this card, the Three of Wands, they got something in return and now they're sending a message back. Or it's just saying, hey, they're still waiting and now they're just going to send this hawk as a messenger to check on the thing that they sent out, check on some ships and get some messengers or messages back, whatever the case may be. And so for me, it may even represent like you're checking in on the process, whether that's like, well, I'm on a dating app and I'm checking to see if, you know, any new matches came up, anyone's messaged me, or, you know, I am checking to see if there's like any singles events in my area. Because, you know, even though I've been putting myself out there in one way by like going out and being open to meeting people, you know, maybe I can, you know, be a little bit proactive and see if there's any events in my area I could go to and hop in and talk to people and things along the lines of that. If it's like the ghosting situation, you still might be like sending some messages and be like, hey, like, what's going on? I haven't heard back from you. If it's a situation where you're sort of waiting for your partner to take a leap and move to a next stage or come to a decision or get to a certain place, you may even be like pushing them for not pushing them, but like poking them for their thoughts and saying, hey, like, have you thought of anything? Like, what is your plan? What are you thinking about? Like, how does this look for you? How do you see the picture? You know, like you need a little bit more, okay? Because it does feel a bit of like that waiting stage going on here. Now, when it comes to family and friends and things that you love to do, to me, I feel as though this is about, like, if you had a creative hobby, you might be taking the time to think about where you want to go next, in terms of what project you might want to take on. Or, you know, maybe you've put your project out there to the world and you're waiting for people to respond and give their feedback or commentary or something along the lines of that. There's something to do with that, depending on what you like to do. If you're someone who is just like having fun this month, you know, it can feel as though it could be quite literal and feel like you're literally waiting in line at events. You know, sometimes tarot is just super literal and it's just like, man, every event I go to is super crowded and I'm always waiting in line. Like, it can be something like that. But generally, you might be just waiting for the right opportunity for something fun or exciting to capture your attention in terms of that. Sometimes you can get on the wait list for certain events and you're waiting to hear back about them. For example, I think I'm on the wait list for this sumo event. Like, they travel around the country, I think every year or maybe every other year. And I'm on their wait list and I honestly cannot wait to hear back from them. I really would like to go to their event just to see sumo wrestling, right? So it's like joining these sort of wait lists for events or something like that. That can happen when it comes to the Three of Wands. It does represent company because the Three of Wands is, well, all threes represent companies, represent groups, represent more than one person. So to me, it doesn't seem as though like you're spending all or majority of your free time by yourself or doing the things that you're enjoying by yourself. To me, it seems as though there is at least a group of people. There's not that sense of solitariness that we might get. Like if we got the hermit in this position, it's like, okay, this month, you're not really even trying to go out like that. But this Three of Wands has a sense of adventure. They like creativity. They like trying new things. They like testing out the waters. That is what Three of Wands definitely deals with here when it comes to testing and trying things out. So to be honest, I see a lot of that this month. I see a lot of you maybe even trying out different things. Whatever it is that you like to do, you're trying out different things just because the Three of Wands connects heavily to creativity and trying something new. And so I would be shocked if you didn't even try just one thing that was outside of your normal comfort zone. Okay, I would be very shocked if that didn't happen this month. But the Three of Wands is, I'm not going to say it's an elated time, but I'm not going to say it's a time where you're miserable and everything's dark and you have no fun this month. No, not at all. It's just more chill. It's just more laid back. There's a lot of that going on in terms of the vibes this month when it comes to having fun, enjoying yourself. More laid back atmosphere, even if it's crowded. You know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of drama going on in this area or things along the lines of that. Things just seem pretty cool, right? And the same thing when it comes to the family, because I do talk about loved ones as well. Both of these cards connect to loved ones. You know, to me, it just shows that, you know, there may even be a little bit of distance between you and the loved ones as well. Maybe you're just kind of reaching out to them a little bit, keep getting some updates. Hey, how you doing? How you been? Etc. Things along the lines of that. Sorry guys, the camera always gets really hot around 30 minutes in. But in terms of family, like I said, this can represent you calling them to catch up. You know, maybe even making plans with them, because the Three of Wands does represent that sense of visionary. It's like, hey, you guys, like, we haven't met up in a while. Let's make some plans, da 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 da. This can also represent, like, if you have a child, you might be like, oh, I'm sending you off into the world. This child is becoming more independent. They're putting themselves out there. You're like trusting the process. I'm trusting them to, you know, move forward to this next stage. in their life, or, you know, I'm dropping them off at daycare for the first time, or I'm sending them off to college. Granted, I don't think most of my viewers are sending their children off to college. Their children are probably a bit younger, but from what I've seen, it can just representing, hey, I'm letting my kid be more independent. And as I mentioned before with this Ace of Cups here with the family, which is what I was about to go into, both of these things can kind of connect to newer energy when it comes to the family dynamics. Because when we have the Three of Wands and they're releasing something like a hawk, it's like I'm letting certain things go. I'm letting certain situations go. I might be letting certain people go. I might be letting tensions go. Whatever the case may be, but it can represent, hey, I'm just letting certain things go when it comes to family or friends, because this can represent friends as well, and even making future plans with friends. Or heck, maybe you're even sending a friend off. Maybe you have a friend who's traveling and you're like, oh, I'm gonna miss you as you go on your vacation for a month or a week, blah, 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 right? Things along the lines of that. But ultimately, when it comes to doing things that you love, doing things that you love, it's all about, hey, I'm being intentional about it. I'm not fully just sitting around waiting. I'm actually trying to plan for my future and where I want to go next. And it could be something as simple as, what do I want to watch next on TV? Or like, what's in my Netflix queue? I always mention Netflix, but you could do Hulu. I don't know, does Hulu have a queue? I would imagine they do. But you know, what's next in that queue that I want to watch next, because this show is great, but I don't want to just go through show loss and have nothing I want to do next. But ultimately, it is a card of wanting to expand a bit more. Okay? You know, pursuing a passion, pursuing something, starting something new, maybe even doing a project with others. But let's move on. So the whole vibe of this month is change. Not really shocking, right? There's some major shifts going on at work. The moon is a bit changeable and goes through different phases and things along the lines of that. You're moving on to the next stage in general. You're setting out intentions and being very proactive about it. There is a lot of change going on. You know, when we have this Death card, we do know that it's all about transformation and growth, and generally about leaving things behind that we no longer need, things that we're letting go of, things that we don't feel is beneficial for us anymore. It just doesn't make sense for us to hold on to. And so this whole month feels like that. Whether you end up leaving some sort of situation, a relationship, a partnership, a friendship, doesn't have to be any of those that are bad for you, you're leaving it behind. Whether you're giving up certain self-sabotaging behaviors, it could be anything from, you know, self-doubt, talking down to yourself, or even for some people procrastinating, whatever bad habits you have. We're all human. We all have bad habits and things we find ourselves doing that is not necessarily beneficial for us. But it's definitely shedding your old skin. This month is all about that. You're getting out of your ritual. You're getting out of your normal routine of how you do things. And it makes a lot of sense because you got that Neptune in the first house. And even I said that was about changeability and transformation and not sitting still in one space. You're cleaning things out, whether that is emotionally, whether that is you're letting go of some harder emotions. You know, like if you were somebody who sought validation from other people, you're just like, well, I'm free from that. Whether that is a relationship with someone who may have dragged you down, you free yourself from that. Or even like if you had gone through a breakup, like the Eight of Cups can sometimes connect to. And it's like, I'm freeing myself from that emotion. Also, since we have the Ace of Cups and we're talking about death and we're talking about change, and both of these connect to new beginnings. It's all about redefining what you value, your own self-worth. What we were just talking about earlier you know, when it came to how you feel about yourself. And yeah, it's going to be up and down. Transformations are often hard, but ultimately you're coming out on the other side feeling lighter. You know, it just ultimately feels as though things are improving and things are getting better for you. And even if you go through some powerful emotional shifts this month, ultimately you're being reborn into someone who is, what's the word? More emotionally in tune with themselves, who may be more of a stable mind. There's definitely a lot more confidence coming your way. You're feeling a lot better about yourself. You're diving into creative areas. To me, it's just as though whatever role you've been playing, whatever character you've been playing in this game of life so far, you're like, I'm done with it. And for me, I find that interesting that we have the moon here, because often when we talk about moon ruled people, they have different faces. I always talk about like the different masks of the moon. If you ever meet moon ruled people, they, out of anyone I know, have like so many different dynamics with different people. They may only show certain people one side of themselves, and then they may show another person a completely different side of themselves. So this month, it's almost like you're stepping into a more authentic version of yourself. And I'm not saying you were being fake before, blah, 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 nothing like that. I'm saying you're showing more of the world how fully authentic you are. Like it's almost like you're tired of playing some type of role. You're like, none of that anymore. I'm showing you the real me. I'm showing you all of it. Or you're getting more comfortable even expressing certain vulnerabilities, because the death house is connected to Scorpio, which is the house of vulnerability, if you want to call it that. But it basically is. You know, it's not just about like shared resources in terms of money. It's about shared emotions. It's about sharing your deepest thoughts. It's the house of intimacy. And so it's almost like you're showing the more raw parts of yourself to the world. And there's a sense of carefreeness as we get to more than likely the end of the month. But it's starting throughout the month, and you know, it's like a process, right? You know, it's not just flipping on a light switch. You know, it's like that wheel. It's turning. And so you're going through these transformations that's allowing yourself to be more authentic. I feel like your pal was the most like spiritual vibe pal. Like a lot of stuff was like more practical events for everyone else. But to me, you guys are going through this spiritual growth. And even just like as I'm speaking, I'm like, why is this pal so like very much in tune with like the emotions and the growth as a person and allowing yourself to have an inner freedom here. That's a lot of what's going on. You are developing, it's almost like you're waking up in a sense, like an alarm clock went off and you're waking up and you're stepping into this new version of you. So I think that's what I want to tell you, pal. Number one, I really think that you are going to have a very transformative July. You know, it really does show me that you're making some new social connections that can potentially transform your life. And yes, certain parts will feel emotionally heavy. So I want to prepare you for that, because we have this Jupiter Moon combination here, along with Death card connected to Scorpio. So yes, certain parts will feel emotionally heavy, but then at the same time, it's like you're allowing yourself to be free. Maybe you've been holding on to certain emotions and you're finding like, I'm letting this stuff out. Like, I got a lot to say and I'm letting it out. For me, it just feels like you're reclaiming your peace. You're shifting up with a new mindset. You are being more proactive. You are letting go of things that don't excite you as much, and you're testing out the waters with new things. And, you know, if you've ever felt like you've been at the center of drama with family or something along the lines of that, then it's like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not being this fixer person for family drama. I'm letting that go. If that was you. because sometimes the moon rule energy wants to be a little bit of a peacekeeper, you know. But that is all I have for you, pile number 1. Hopefully you like it. If not, you know, feel free to choose a new pal. You know, they've all got different energies that you might be more aligned with, or you might feel called to choose 2 pals. I know some people work and flow in that fashion. Don't forget, I do go live on the weekends, and sometimes I pop up during the week. And I will see you next time. Private readings will be available again during July. Just want to say that towards the end of July. And that is all. I will see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal. Number 2. Let's get started on your July 2025. We have the 3 of Pentacles. Not a bad start. The Page of Pentacles. And this is representing where you currently are. Page of Pentacles is where your finances are this month. Then we have the King of Swords. But that would be reversed because it's following the Pentacles. We also have the Knight of Pentacles reversed for love. And we have the Sun as the overall vibe. And we have Saturn Truth. All right. And we have our Astro dice. So let's really get a feel. I'm just rolling these dice around. Ooh! 1 flew, guys. Energy is powerful. Let's roll that one again. It is flying. It's flying. Okay? Stay on the table. All right. Swear to God. Swear, guys. I am a professional. if you don't believe in me. So, we have the Sun in Gemini in the 8th house for you. And I'm judging by the way that those dice were rolling around. Things are a little bit, maybe a little chaotic this month. Just a little bit. Okay? So we have this Sun in the 8th house in Gemini. So when we talk about Sun in the 8th house, we're talking about an illumination of 8th house themes. That can deal with uncovering psychological trauma. That can deal with relationships. This can deal with, you know, how am I of asset or value to others? Like how am I seen by others? How am I perceived by others? That can be a 8th house energy, pregnancy, etc. Like it goes on and on and on. It also is a house of shared resources. So anything from investments to loans sometimes, though I usually get loans for, you know, the 6th house, but it can be loans, credit card debt or credit card purchasing, etc. So this month seems to be a month where there does seem to be a strong focus when it comes to the finances. I mean, we do have 3 different Pentacle cards here. That's unsurprising. And as I mentioned, this can definitely deal with trying to tackle any sort of credit card debt or loans that may be outstanding. The only reason I say that is because we have this Page of Pentacles and maybe even a little bit of the Knight of Pentacles reverse coming up here. It is for love. So when I see this, like for doing things that you love or things that you enjoy, this can be like, hey, you know, I'm just going to put this on the credit card. I want to go to the movies, or I want to experience some fun things and go out to eat something nice at a restaurant, get all done up. I want to buy some fresh new summer fits, and you're putting it on like the credit card. So that can be a thing for this month. This can also be representing anything to do with learning more and growing in your financial journey as well, because we're talking about deep insights into the financial sphere. And there is a deep sphere when it comes to finances between like wills. That could be an 8th house theme, inheritances, anything to deal with resources and along the lines of that, contracts, especially if you share like a percentage. For example, I know when it was either Saturn or Jupiter transited Angelina Jolie's 8th house, she was one of the most highest paid actresses in Hollywood. And obviously as an actress, she's sharing a percentage of what she makes through her contracts with lawyers, with accountants, with CPAs. So it can represent that sort of shared contract. So if you have anything like that, whether that be some sort of legal matter, like sometimes lawyers would take a percentage of what you may get from a lawsuit. That's something that you will be dealing with this month. Additionally, like I said, this can be deepening your insight on your financial journey. I say that because we have the Page of Pentacles. And when we're talking about the Page of Pentacles, he's just learning and starting out. You know, he's trying to figure out, what is this financial thing all about? Like, how do taxes really work? Who do they go to? Like, how can I get more tax breaks? Like, what does it mean to start a business? Like, it's diving deeper into this world, or even learning more about your own financial habits is something that this can be about. When we're talking about this placement of Sun, Gemini, 8th house, there is an emphasis when it can come to illuminating and thinking about different power dynamics in your life, because the 8th house definitely deals with power and control and imbalances and things along the lines of that. So it's like this area of push and pull when it comes to, you know, what's mine, what's yours, you know, people wanting to implement their own ideas of how they want things to be, and you asserting your own independence. Like, the Sun kind of brings out more insight into, you know, the psychology of others, as well as, like I said, where you might even see people sort of flexing their egos. Okay, so it's kind of giving more insight and revealing more of that energy here. And we have the Sun technically twice in this reading, because we have the Sun for the overall vibes of this month, and we also have the Sun when it's coming to your 8th house. And so when I think about the Sun and all of the energy surrounding it, the Sun can be very beautiful, very happy, very enjoyable. And at the same time, it can also be a card that represents frustration. It represents, similar to what I was saying, this sort of power and control vibes. Look at the kids on the cards, right? In some regards, you can picture this as like these kids playing around. But in another perception, it's almost like these kids are doing a little bit of a tug of war thing going on here when we're looking at this deck, right? It's like, I want the pole, I want the flag to be over here. And they're like, no, I want it to be over there, right? And so there's some sort of push and pull dynamic that could possibly be playing out in your life this month. May not be for everyone, but for some of you, I would imagine that would be the case. The Sun is all about independence, leadership, and authority, right? And so this becomes a major theme. And when you have this sort of Sun-like energy and you want that sort of freedom, you want that autonomy, you want that independence, there's always going to be someone there that wants to place restrictions on that freedom, restrictions on that sense of autonomy. And we do have this planet Saturn here, but let's not jump into that yet. But Saturn and the Sun can definitely be a little bit of a tug of war. It's like I'm putting a damper on your sort of spirit in a way, and I'm reeling you in into a more controlled environment, right? And also when we have just the Sun in Gemini in general, the Sun in Gemini wants to learn. There's some really great qualities that I've seen in Sun-ruled individuals from an astrology perspective. Sun-ruled individuals tend to be very highly intelligent. I often see them getting by and leveling up through their education. A lot of Sun-ruled individuals are naturally good at school, will tend to get into scholarships, colleges, really good colleges. They may even get a full ride. They may even get a lot of scholarships, but there's a strong sense of education when it comes to the Sun. And that's really not surprising, because Sun rules the 5th house, which in astrology is the house of education, or at least one of the major houses when it comes to that. And so when we're talking Sun in Gemini, we're talking about learning and growing when it comes to communication, maybe even a little bit of trying to work your way around and manipulate a little bit Doesn't have to be like a sort of nasty manipulation, but you may not be able to play fair and you may not be able to play by the rules, okay? I say that because we see this King of Swords, and it's very interesting because normally when I read, I start off with the dice and then I go into the reading, but so many of these themes are sort of very, very easily connected to these dice that it's hard for me not to make a little commentary, right? So when we're talking about that, we're talking about how can I best communicate to maybe even get my emotional needs met, maybe to feel a sense of stability, excuse me. There is a possibility of just wanting to highlight issues, highlight challenges, looking at closer at relationships when it comes to others, unraveling dynamics that don't feel as if they are supporting your sense of freedom and individuality. And like I said, it's more of so how can I step into my power and I can feel free to express myself and I don't feel as weighed down, especially when we're with that Gemini energy. That Gemini energy wants to move. There's a strong sense of curiosity and wanting to explore. That's why Gemini is this like short travel house, as well as it also deals with learning skills and being brave as well. So Sun in the third house is like, hey, I'm ready to jump into something new. I'm ready to jump into working. I'm ready to explore deeper avenues of my own mind as well as the mind of others. The 8th house transit is very, very interesting as well, but you're definitely uncovering or seeing things in a new light when it comes to any challenges or a sense of power and balance when it comes to your life in the month of July. Ooh, struggling to speak here. Now, when we go into this 3 of Pentacles here, we're talking about how you are in your current state and maybe even some of the energy as we move into July. And this 3 of Pentacles is somebody who's very collaborative. They're focusing on completing a task. They are nose to the grind, making sure that they check off everything on their to-do list and everything is working rather harmoniously. And so your mindset as you get and move forward in this month is trying to make sure that you get things done. That is a strong possibility of this. You're looking to make sure that if we're focusing on things that are like work related, everything is moving smoothly. And I mean, honestly, this can apply to home, this can apply to friends, this can apply to family as well, where there is collaboration, there is balance, there is a sense of working together as a unit. For example, if you have roommates, this is like, let's make sure that we all have a sense of structure when it comes to delegating and doing chores within the household. So it's not like one person is always doing the dishes or one person is always taking out the trash. There is a system set in place that we are collaborating and working together, okay? There's a more of a sense of looking for unity and making sure that everything is being done efficiently. You're looking for more stability and efficiency in your life as we move through this month. And it's interesting because the 3 of Pentacles comes from this place of the 2 of Pentacles, where they're juggling, they have to be a little bit flexible because they don't know what's going to come next. And there is a lot of spinning different hats going around. And so you may even have come out of a place like that. And so now you're like, no, I need a little bit more groundedness. I need something to be a little bit more routine. I'm sick of juggling things all the time. I'm sick of the inconsistencies. The 2 of Pentacles is like somebody who has an on-call job and they have to, be ready at certain times or plan to expect a sense of unexpectedness. That's the 2 of Pentacles. Expect the unexpected. And you're like, I'm sick of all of that. I want some structure. I want some foundation. And I want things to feel as though I'm moving in the right direction and I'm making progress towards stability, which is the 4 of Pentacles. And that seems to be sort of a lot of you guys' mindset as we go through this month. And as I mentioned, this can be more structure within personal relationships because we do have that 8th house feel. This can represent more collaboration when it comes to family members, co-workers, friends, whatever the case is in your life. You're just looking to make sure that things have a sort of system or a easy flow set in place, okay? And then also this can just represent you have a more so work focused mindset as we move into this month. Maybe you have some things that you feel you have recently completed and you're ready to move to the next steps and you're ready to move on to something new. And this can also sort of represent that you are moving into a phase in your life where you are looking to lay down roots and you want that sense of mundaneness and predictability within your life. There is that strong possibility because the 3 of Pentacles, they're ultimately looking for success, stability, and groundedness, okay? They want a solid routine that they can live with and they can blossom and grow towards. Now, the Page of Pentacles here, when it comes to the finances, and I read this house as self-esteem as well, and as family, potentially. So Page of Pentacles, I can get to represent like family members too, or even new family members, or even like if you had like a brother or sister and they got into a relationship, I can get the Page of Pentacles for that, and sometimes I get the Ace of Pentacles for that. So there may be some sort of like new addition in terms of the family coming in because pages do represent things that are new. Or there could be some, you know, new structures in the family environment. Maybe, you know, you guys normally have a reunion every 2 to 3 years. And now you're deciding, hey, you know what? Let's have this reunion every year. You know, let's come together every year. So it's like a new sort of family dynamic that is going on here. It doesn't have to be something like that. There's lots of different family dynamics that could be changing and taking place. The Page of Pentacles, as I mentioned with the finances before, you may be taking a new look at things. The Sun always represents, you know, that new dawn, that new day, that new beginning, right? And so when it comes to the energy here in your money house, it's like I'm looking at a new financial plan. I'm looking at a new way to organize finances. I'm looking for new ways to even make money, because this is not just about financial planning. This is about gaining resources as well, and trying to make better decisions when it comes to that. Page of Pentacles can also represent that you're looking for a new job. And if you're a student, this can just represent that, you know, you might be taking a new class that might be relevant to your education that could financially be beneficial towards you in the future. That's very Page of Pentacles. It's like I'm making a new practical choice that could potentially lead to somewhere that will give me the ability to be at the place that I want to be in terms of my careers or my goals or my dreams. Pentacles are all about trying to bring things to materialize, right? It's the material world. It's like, what can I obtain here, right? And so it doesn't have to be job related. It could just literally be like an item that you want or a specific goal that you have in mind. Long as it's sort of connected to the material. The Page of Pentacles relates to that. And so you may even have that sort of sense of climbing towards that new goal, or setting something new in place, or even starting a new job can be the Page of Pentacles, or finding an interest in a new area that can connect to a goal that you have in mind. For example, you may have always wanted to start a business, and let's say you have always thought about, hey, I want to sell crystals. And then you start thinking a little bit deeper and you're just like, you know what? It would be nice if I sold crystals and I sold tarot cards. And so, like I said, it's starting to expand sort of that financial planning if you have that sort of mindset. on a less business focused level, because not everyone's starting a business or anything like that. The Page of Pentacles can just represent that you're spending your money in a more practical matter. Like you're looking at things in terms of longevity and value. For example, the Page of Pentacles can represent that you might be looking to align your financial purposes with things that you value, right? And the Page of Pentacles is not someone who's going to do a lot of deep research because they're kind of new. So let's say you're someone and you're like, you know what? I want to make more ethical purchases. Let me start small, right? Because it's the Page of Pentacles. I'm going to start with only buying ethical chocolate, right? And so that's a move in a new financial direction that is aligned with like your morals, your beliefs, your values, as well as it's a new way to go about spending money. And when it comes to gaining money, I've already sort of mentioned having new ideas, maybe possibly a new job, looking for a new source of income that is very possible, or even actually getting a new source of income, because the Page of Pentacles represents new opportunities coming in. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to confidence, we're talking about feeling a little shy. The Page of Pentacles is not the most confident card, but it is a Pentacle card. So it deals strongly with starting to feel a little bit a sense of confidence. Like you're willing to try something new. And because this I sort of read as the astrology second house rules the face. And so you might even experiment with a look as well. And the Page of Pentacles, I remember one time I got it to represent a new haircut, and it was exactly how I described. I was a little shy about it, but I ventured out into something new, right? I was like, oh, let me try something new. And I did that little haircut thing, right? And that could be something that's very Page of Pentacles. Like I'm spending my money on something new. I'm altering my appearance, and I feel a little bit shy about it because it's new to me. But, you know, I'm stepping into that confidence. I'm stepping into being more comfortable in who I am and feeling more secure within myself. So this is a very good card to have for the month of July. It gives you more flexibility to learn and grow and feel more confident within yourself and experiment a little bit more. So there is that. And then also the Page of Pentacles can just represent trying something new. Like, oh my gosh, I purchased a new CD. And so, or I decided to finally get a Spotify membership, or I decided that I wanted to use, what am I thinking of right now? I decided I wanted to buy a, what do you call those things? A Patreon. Like I really like this creator, and I decided I wanted to be a Patreon member. That's Page of Pentacles, right? Something new, something different, and I'm expanding my money in that area, and I feel like their content adds value. I'm just thinking of things because as a creator, these things come to me, right? But let's move on to the career, because I don't want to spend too much time. I've been making these so long. The King of Swords reverse when it comes to career, like I said, this can represent, you know, having that environment where people are not being upfront. You know, the King of Swords is, when he's reversed, he can be a shady type of character, and he's smart about it too. So he has the intellect, and he also has the power to implement things that aren't necessarily beneficial to everyone. It's more of like a selfish perspective, right? So in the work environment, people might be just looking out for themselves. There is a lack of clarity. There is a lack of harmony and participation. There can even be a lot of criticism here when it comes to the work environment, okay? It could just feel like you don't have that freedom as much as you want, and you might be even pushing for it. See, the King of Swords is someone who can feel insecure when he's reversed, right? He's just looking for ways to sort of assert their control, right? Like they have power, they have authority, but they aren't really wielding it right. If you're wielding it right, you are growing the people in your environment. You are supporting them. You are providing them with knowledge. When he's reversed, there's a lack of direction. There's vagueness. tasks are switching around. They're saying, I want you to do that. You go do it. And then they come back and say, oh, I never told you to do that. Or you did this thing wrong. Like, what are you doing? Like, I never said that, right? It's very much like, what is going on with this communication here? And so the communication at work through the month of July can just be frustrating, okay? And like I said, when the king is upright, he's telling the truth, he's honest, he's being upfront, he's giving clear communication. So when he's reversed, he's doing the exact opposite. So I'm going to be honest and say work is a little bit frustrating. To me, it seems as though you may have some people in leadership who are just not being open to the needs of the people within their environment. And for you, you're just like, I don't know what's going on. To me, it seems like they're doing things just to do things. It seems frustrating. There is a sense of irrational logic. You know how we say make it make sense? Well, it does not make sense this month. You know, it's almost as if this environment here is people are starting to feel as though they need to make sure that they're okay personally, but they aren't really concerned with how this works and flows as a team. And there's a lack of long-term strategic planning, especially when we have the King of Swords reversed, okay? The King of Swords is normally somebody who is ethical, who is moral. And so this kind of goes into what I was saying before when it comes to this Sun and Gemini 8th house energy, where things can feel a little bit secret. And it's almost like you have to do your best to work within this environment that is not being completely supportive of you. Okay, I do want to say that. I hate leading with the negative. Positive things though, positive things. When we have the King of Swords reversed, you learn to be flexible, right? You learn to deal with people who are not sharing information, who are, hoarding details, who aren't passing things along. You see all of the lapses in communication within your environment. And because you have this Sun in Gemini, it's almost like you're illuminating all of the flaws and things when it comes to the communication in this environment, and you're figuring out the best way to sort of work around it. There's a little bit of having to navigate the situation to the best of your abilities. So there is more of that thinking on your feet. But since we're in this 3 of Pentacles place, which tells me you came from the 2 of Pentacles place, it's not surprising that you have had to deal with this. And you having that sense of flexibility is going to be very useful for you this month in July. All right, you being able to think on your feet, think on your toes, and really sort of get in there and figure out how to flesh out information, how to find out who has the answers, how to figure out what exactly is being communicated to you is going to be a skill set that you're going to use this month. And like I said, I really do think that you guys have the intelligence and the experience to deal with this type of situation. And honestly, for some of you, this might even just be one particular individual that you have contact with whose behavior is just all over the place. On the card, we have Uranus in Libra, and Uranus in Libra, when it's not in its best formation, is all about sort of breaking away from partnership. Like I mentioned before, every man, every woman for themselves, right? It's just like, I can't count on you. You're not showing up the way I need you to. And I'm going to have to learn to work around it and be this person who takes the lead without having the support that I should be getting, right? And this can also represent things like, people taking credit for work, people not taking accountability. It goes along. You guys know the list of work issues that can go around with this King of Swords. But as I mentioned before, you're going to learn from this. You're going to grow from this. And it's highlighting all of those issues so that you can better plan ahead in the future for if you ever see this type of behavior in the long run. The Sun card is knowledge. The Sun card is illumination. And so when you are accumulating knowledge and when you are being illuminated to matters, you're not just being illuminated to things that are happy and pleasant. You're being illuminated to the things that are unfortunate and things that just aren't working. Okay, systems that are hurting people and things that are inefficient. These are the things that are being illuminated to you this month, as well as the things that are going well, because like I said, you yourself seem to be making some smart choices. This can also represent reputation with the King of Swords. And so I do want to say that it's possible that some people are saying some things that aren't necessarily true about you, and you may be illuminated to that. And look, we do have this Saturn card, truth, right? So let's move on to the love stuff. Knight of Pentacles when it comes to love. If you're in a relationship, you may feel things are a little bit stagnant right now. The Knight of Pentacles likes to work hard, move ahead, make progress, learn and grow. He can be too work focused, and sometimes, though I think this is pretty rare, the Knight of Pentacles can be a little lazy, but that's pretty rare. He's mainly more work obsessive. So the Knight of Pentacles in this reverse manner is kind of showing that you may not feel like you want to put much work into this relationship. You may feel like it's just like not even worth that much effort. I feel like I'm leading with so many negatives. Like it's you have positive things coming this month. I do want to say that, okay? You are making good choices, right? So as I'm mentioning, it can feel as though you don't want to put effort into this relationship, or you're feeling it's not worth the effort, or you're reevaluating things within the relationships, things that don't seem to be working correctly or working in a way that feels as if you guys are moving forward in the right direction. There may be some conversations that need to be had. It may feel as though that one person is putting more effort in than the other. And there can even be a sense of just feeling like, why do we feel so misaligned this month? Like, why are we feeling like our vibes are just off? You know, it's just a time to sit and reflect as to what you guys can do to work better as a couple. And if you're single, well, the Knight of Pentacles is just kind of like, I don't want to go out there and meet anyone. I will say the Knight of Pentacles, if you are looking to meet someone, the Knight of Pentacles may see, I don't really see anyone I really mesh with on the market. It's almost like the dating market, that is. It's almost like you're meeting individuals who don't really align up to your standards, because look at the way the Knight of Pentacles is holding this pentacle in their hand. They have a very a look of admiration about them. It's glowing, and when it's reversed, it's like, I don't see the value in this. This coin's a little musty. You know, this coin doesn't really do much for me. What can I even do with this coin? And it may feel like that with dating. It's like you're meeting people and you're just like, I don't even know what to do with you, because I don't think we have anything that is going to cause this to last long term. This doesn't seem to have any long-term value, which is what the Knight of Pentacles looks for, right? And so you may even feel like that when it comes to being single. That is, if you're interested in dating. And like I said, if you're not interested in dating at the moment, well, this is just saying, I don't want to date. Like it literally is just saying, I don't want to put in that effort. I don't want to go out there. It seems like it's going to be too much work and I won't get much back from it. And you're looking at the things that you may have done in the past and how situations have worked out. And you're like, yeah, I don't think things are going to work out for me this time either, because just given X, Y, and Z things that has happened in the past, I don't feel like things are going to move forward in the right direction. And then, like I said, this can even just be a time of introspection into your own actions and saying, what is it that I'm truly looking for within a connection and a relationship? Sometimes the Knight of Pentacles just needs time to pause and reflect before they move forward. And this might even just be time to pause and reflect and think about what it is that you truly get out of the relationship. What exactly are you looking for? What dynamic are you looking for? And also looking at how you yourself feel like you want to be appreciated within a relationship. It's a little bit of self-love with the Knight of Pentacles, and looking at your own value and starting to see your own worth there. When it comes to the things that you love, I mean, this kind of just like say, you know, expect a few delays here. And, you know, I have mentioned this previously. Pentacles can be so slow moving, especially the Knight of Pentacles reversed. This is just like, there's so many different delays and things that might be going on when it comes to doing some things I love, when it comes to relaxation time. Maybe you're like, oh man, I can't wait for the weekend and have my time to myself and cozy in bed and etc. da 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 da. And then, you know, the weekend comes and then all of a sudden, you know, people are reaching out to you and they're like, can you help me with this? As I was mentioning before my camera got a little overheated, when it comes to doing things that you love, there may feel as though people are like interrupting your relaxation time. And then on the other hand, the Knight of Pentacles reverse struggles with organization. And so you may even overcommit to plans as well, where you promise to be somewhere, but you can't follow through on that promise, okay? And then this can also be a sense of over planning as well, where you're planning everything down to the detail. You're thinking too hard about what you want to wear, what you need to wear, and what time you need to show up, and who's going to be there, and every little detail like you might want to know about. Sometimes the Knight of Pentacles can be a little bit anxious. This can also represent, you know, maybe you want to stick to the same old, same old. Sometimes the Knight of Pentacles is just like, I don't really want to try anything new this month. In terms of like going out or doing things, you might like make some purchases from home, or even do the same things. Like if you normally go shopping all the time, you're like, okay, I'm going to go shopping like I normally do. But generally when the Knight of Pentacles is reversed, this is normally like the same things I like to do for fun. I want to continue to do that this month. Like I don't want to venture out into something new. Also, if you are somebody like, let's say you have a passion project, you may feel a little bit uninspired this month. You may feel as though you're procrastinating or dragging your feet when it comes to that. It just feels a little bit like you don't want to have to do more work, or like I said, you're just uninspired to do certain things, right? It's just like, oh, I'm not really motivated to do pottery right now. Like I always do pottery, but I'm not motivated to do it right now. I just want to, you know, watch movies or something like I normally do sometimes, right? We have different things that we like to do. So certain things you may feel unmotivated to do, and then the things that other things that you normally like to do, you may just be doing those things instead. So that's something that can happen when it comes to that. And when it comes to anything regarding sort of friendships, Knight of Pentacles, similarly, like I said, you might be overcommitting and be like, oh, I can't follow through my plans, friends. I can't make it. I don't want to leave the house. Things along the lines of that. And then also, sometimes the Knight of Pentacles, it's like, even when you show up, you're just like, I'm tired, guys. Like, sorry, I'm not my normal self. I'm just a little bit checked out. I just don't feel, I don't feel in the mood to like get engaged in that way. That could be something. that can be happening too. You may not even be letting certain friends in this month because the Knight of Pentacles can be overly cautious. And so you may just like feel, I don't feel like venting to my friends. I kind of want to hold in my problems a little, which falls into sort of Saturn's domain here, because Saturnian people have a tendency to want to hold things in. They're like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not feeling like I want to express myself. There's a lot of anxiety there that's potentially there, and maybe that's affecting your friendships in some way. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, your friends are turning against you or something like that. It's just feeling as though you may not even want to engage, or maybe you even might feel a lack of support sometimes with the Knight of Pentacles when it comes to friends. Or it could be the opposite, where you feel like your friends aren't really letting you into your issues or leaning on you for any problems that they may have. And that could be friends or family. This goes for both things, or even within relationships. All of these can apply to any sort of relationships. This is just people that you love. And if you have children, you know, it may even fall into that category as well, depending on the age of the child, right? So that could be something that could be going on. There's so many different circumstances. I will literally be here all day if I name them all. But generally, it just feels as though there may be a sense of neglect or inconsistency, either on your part or their part. So keep that in mind for this month. Like I said, the Sun card is good and bad, because the Sun card lets me know that eventually everything is going to be all right, right? There is a sense of you trying to keep a positive attitude throughout the month. There's a sense of you pushing towards joy and ensuring that you have that long term. I say that because we have Saturn there. And when I've seen people who've had this Sun-Saturn combination, yes, they do face a lot of hardships and challenges within their life. But one thing that I've seen them do is that they even push even harder towards independence and ensuring that they have long-term happiness. So it's like, for example, instead of, and I'm just using job examples, but instead of like hopping from job to job each time you feel as though the environment is not best for you, or something along the lines of that, where you quit and you're like, oh God, I can't stand this job, I quit, I'm moving to the next job, and then that job ends up being something you don't like either. The Sun and Saturn combination is going to be a little bit more meticulous when it comes to finding the right role for themselves to ensure that they set themselves up for long-term success. So they take a longer route, but at the same time, they're making sure that they're with a company or an organization that will bring them happiness within the long run, so they aren't forced to jump from job to job. And then also, if just playing off that scenario, this can be even setting up your own business, your own sense of entrepreneurial thing to ensure that you are your own boss, because both Saturn and Sun connect to leadership and authority and having more control over your life, right? These are what these things are all about: embracing your true self and assuring that you can do this long term, that you don't have to answer to anyone. That's one thing that I love about the Saturn and Sun combination. It's assuring that you don't have to be under anyone's thumb when I see it together. And the way it does that is by giving you so many different experiences where you're at the will of others, and to the point where you're inspired to make sure that no longer happens, right? So there is that energy going on. So when you see it in general, this combination of energy, yes, it may be tough to pull through the month of July, but by the end of this month or throughout this month, you're slowly asserting yourself and you're letting out more of that inner child. You're stepping more into that confidence, like the Page of Pentacles says. You're being called to make sure that you can celebrate life. Make sure that you feel more in control of your destiny. and you're moving more towards a place of abundance. I know we always say things like this, but I really do see this for you. I see that you are somebody who is going to make sure that you have this in your life, and it is something stable and consistent. And this month is part of that journey and making sure that happens. There are some lessons being learned this month that are going to catapult you further into getting the life that you want and that you deserve. So it is all about making sure that you are protecting your happiness, that you're protecting your joy, that you stay on the right path, that you keep going despite the obstacles. To me, it feels as though you're finally breaking free of anything that just feels a bit unstable or erratic or out of control or moving in the wrong direction, or like you're being blown like a paper bag in the wind. And you're like, no, stop. I'm taking control of the situation. I'm going to be honest with myself and say, I cannot live my life this way. And I'm moving towards a place where it's going to bring me a lot more fulfillment. And like I said, that's starting to occur this month. Saturn is a slow planet. He's little by little. And so you may see progress and you may see change happen this month, little by little by little. That is what's happening. We do have Pentacles here also sort of emphasizing the gradual change, the gradual shifts that you're moving for when it comes to this month. Okay? I just see that happening for you. Saturn's energy wants you to rise to the top. There's a reason Saturn rules Capricorn and it's at the top of the chart. It is about making sure that you work through, you have a sense of discipline, you have a sense of, I guess, grind, effort. It's almost like this unbreakable will to move towards something that can bring you long-term sustainable success. From what I've seen with Saturnian people, and I'm talking about within my own life, people I've talked to, they will gradually move to higher and higher roles that will allow them the freedom and the space they need to have a sense of peace and rest, right? Saturn is very funny because Saturn likes to move towards rest. Everyone associates with the workaholic planet, and it is, and they're working so hard so that they don't have to work hard. Saturnian people are the most I hate working people that I have ever seen, but they are forced within circumstances that pushes them to mature and grow, so that they can honestly go from like a rock to a diamond, so that they can shine, so that they can be the one who is in control of their life, so they can take accountability for their actions, so that they have a strong sense of boundaries, that they are someone who is honestly just in control of their destiny, right? So it may be an emotionally heavy month. It may be a month where there may be some frustrations, because when we have that sun there, you know, and it's in the 8th house, it's almost like the ego is a little bit bruised too, which I can get from the sun, you know, Saturn combination going on there. There is a sense of humility, or even feeling as though you're not being properly recognized, but trust the process. This is a month of slow, steady growth into something that is going to be very sustainable for you. You're learning to protect your energy. You are learning to value your time. And you're learning more about valuing yourself and coming into your own confidence. That is something, a very important lesson that you are learning this month. So I do want to say that, all right? It's not like this is some joyless, draining month where nothing good happens. In fact, I feel as though, you know, there's probably going to be a few good things that happen for you this month, especially within the area of maybe a little bit of like family and finances and things along the lines of that. And like I said, there is a sense of spiritual growth here. Okay? And confidence. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of this inner work going on. So I'm going to leave it at that. The sun does bring happy moments. It does let you know everything's going to be all right. And so I do want to say that as well. All right. So I hope this wasn't a downer reading. I really do. I want positive things to be happening for you, pile number 2. Like I said, I do see good things happening. There are some happy, joyous moments, especially, you know, you might even kiki with someone at work, or like at least with a mature individual, somebody who you feel like is providing you a sense of guidance in a way. They'll make you smile or some in some ways, and you're moving closer towards certain goals of yours. So that is what I want to say, and I want to let you know that, as always, the readings are on Thursday. If this pile didn't resonate, you know, feel free to choose a new pile or a new reader. Either way, I'm super happy you stopped by. I do wish nothing but the best. You know, I'm sending all of my love and my luck your way, pile number 2. And also, I think private readings, they'll open up in July, and it should be the end of July. And I think that is all I want to say for now. Catch me on the live streams, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal number 3, let's get into your July 2025. We have the 10 of Pentacles representing you. Lucky you. The King of Pentacles representing finance. Okay, can we switch lives? We have the Moon representing work. We have the Strength card representing family. We have the Knight of Swords for the month's vibe. And Taurus, I have another money pile here. What's going on, pile number 3? You win the lottery. All right, let's get into these dice. Woo, this one almost fell off. We have Sagittarius, Mars, second house. So Mars and Sagittarius in the second house. Another second house. Taurus is second house too. It's all about the money. All about the Benjamins, baby. All right. So let's talk money. Let's talk finance. Let's talk self-esteem. Let's talk self-worth and family too as well. So we have Mars in the second house in Sagittarius. So when we have Mars in general in the sign of Sagittarius in the second house, Mars likes being in Sagittarius. It's a fire sign. Mars is a quick kind of planet. It likes to make those fast snap judgments. And so when it's in the sign of Sagittarius, it's almost like a power up. And we have to think about the sign of Sagittarius just separate from the second house. So Mars, when it's in the sign of Sagittarius, Mars is a planet of where do I put my effort? Where am I putting my energy? And so when we have this place of effort and energy, it's like I'm putting my effort and energy into education, into travel. Sometimes it can be any sort of spiritual matter. Like if you're like, oh, I bought some crystals this month. That would kind of be like, I'm putting my effort into gathering some crystals. Sagittarius is also a sign that has to do with legal contracts as well, similar to Libra in a way. It also can do with a second marriage, but I mean, unless you guys are getting married for a second time, that's probably not going to be relevant for most of you. And what Sagittarius is mainly for, or known for, is the house of beliefs. You know, Sagittarius slogan is I believe, just like you have Taurus slogan, I have. So Sagittarius is all about what you believe. And so there could be a lot of efforts this month to really get to the nitty gritty of what it is that you believe. Mars is not a shallow or superficial planet. It rules the sign of Scorpio. So it wants to dig deep. In fact, when I see my Mars ruled people, a lot of them are highly educated and generally like to do a lot of research, will ask a lot of questions. And so this seems to me that there does seem to be some sort of philosophical element to this month, or even spiritual element to this month when it comes to what you believe. Or sometimes it's even just like the media you consume, because that definitely plays an effect on our mindset and what we believe to be reality. You know, if I look at the media in America versus if I looked at the media in North Korea, it's going to have two different realities of what's going on in the world versus if I go to and look at the media or even just talk to people in China, right? There is different belief systems based on where you're located in the world, what information you consume, and who you talk to. So this can generally be a month about going deep, expanding your mind, and even really questioning what you believe on that level. On another level for you guys, this talks about motivation. You know, Sagittarius is the sign of inspiration. I always say this on my channel that Sagittarius rules the 9th house. The 9th house is what is motivating you to accomplish your goals. It also is the house of like a teacher and a guru. So maybe some of you are, you know, having a lot of conversations with a mentor, maybe even having some beefs with a mentor. Sometimes the 9th house can represent people who are above you at work, like managers and things along the lines of that. And sometimes that can represent conflict with those at work. Like if I saw the sun in the 9th house, I'm like, oh, it's battle of the egos when it comes to people at work. Well, Mars in the 9th house can similarly create power struggles in that way. Positive things is, like I said, it brings about inspiration as well. It's something that makes you feel highly motivated. Now, when we combine all of these together, and I'm trying to talk a little fast here because I'm just like, oh my God, I talk way too much. But when I combine everything together, I'm looking at what is inspiring you to build stability for yourself. What is generally like, what do you believe inside that makes you feel confident about yourself? Like, what are you telling yourself in the morning? Do you wake up and say, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm accomplished? Or are you telling yourself something different? Are you talking down to yourself? Things along the lines of that. It's like, what do I believe what do I believe I'm basing my self-worth and my self-esteem on? So that is a combination of these cards here. Generally, also, this can mean, hey, I'm spending my money on education. I'm spending my money on travel. I am spending my money on my family because 2nd house connects to family as well. I'm spending money when it comes to going to the movies. I'm spending it on video games because that's a form of media. Any form of media, any form of content you consume, that can be that. I'm giving to charities. Sagittarius is not highly charitable. I mean, it is a charitable sign, but it's not the most charitable. I've seen other more charitable signs. In fact, I think Cancer and Pisces may be like the most charitable when I was looking at things. But you know, it's saying, hey, I could be giving my money away to charity, and that's something that generally it can do as well. These are all things that are the combination of these cards. And also, I want to say with Mars in the 2nd house, Mars is really good about gathering resources, but similarly, as I said, Sagittarius is amplifying that fiery nature of Mars. This can also be good about burning through resources. Okay, I'm going to be honest there. I do see this King of Pentacles, so you may not be burning through resources that much. You may be making some more practical decisions, and this might be just an emphasis on big purchases, you know, because Sagittarius rules things that are big and gigantic and mystery, and I want to learn more about something that is beyond me. And so it may be just like a larger purchase when it comes to some of you, but it's going to depend. Like I said, I see this King of Pentacles here, so I'm really not too worried about you guys. I feel as though these are some smarter financial choices, but this is good. Like I said, when I see Mars in the 2nd house, sometimes it can just mean impulsive buying on things that are luxurious in a way, or things that just may not have a lot of long-term value. This can also represent investing because, like I said, having Mars in the 2nd house is kind of like having Scorpio as a sign in the 2nd house, and Scorpio is the sign of shared resources. So things that are shared resources are investments, are inheritances. I guess you could say the lottery as well, because that is funded through the money of the people, and that gets spread out to certain individuals. So that's shared resources that you contributed to. Anything that is going to be shared money, if you're in a relationship, that would also be a shared resource. Generally, like when you're married, people tend to, you know, merge their assets. Not always, but generally. That is a common practice thing to do. So there could be some of that going on as well. So, hey, how can I diversify my portfolio? How can I diversify my investments? Maybe I want to get into real estate. Maybe I want to start a business. You know, these are the things that Mars ruled things deal with, as well as the last thing I want to say before I move on. There's a lot of things I can say. You guys know I love astrology. This can represent just spending money on yourself, making yourself feel good, doing things that help you feel motivated. For example, when I get Pentacles, I get a lot of things of self-care. So something that can help you be motivated is to have something to look forward to. Maybe work just sucks and you're just like, man, this is draining to me. So I am going to book a staycation. I'm gonna have a spa day and I'm going to put my feet up. And that helps you to stay motivated throughout the week to get through work until you find something else that is a better fit for you. So that's something that can be a thing as well. Now, since I've talked a lot about this King of Pentacles, let's kind of jump into it a little bit, because the emphasis really is on a lot of finances this month, a lot of money, a lot of family. I meant to say Mars in the second house can give some ups and downs with family members. Mars likes to sever ties. And so maybe for some of you have a little tiff with a family member and you're just like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with your issue right now. Like, like, please, just, you're blocked. You know, you might have a moment like that. That is possible. So when we have the King of Pentacles here, I love to see it. One of the best cards you can get financially. In fact, you have two of the best cards. You have the Ten of Pentacles representing where you are, and you have the King of Pentacles representing your finances. So I already know that you're in a good place. You may have accomplished a certain goal recently, or you might just be about to accomplish that goal. Ten of Pentacles deals with long-term goals, something that took effort and time to get to, and that will sustain you in the long term. This can also sort of just represent feeling comfortable, safe, and secure. Like you feel like you are in a good place in your life. There's stability, there's consistency. You don't have to worry about any bills. You feel as though you've got a good plan for your life. Maybe you're on track for retirement. Maybe you just feel comfortable within your home and you feel you have everything you possibly need and desire, and maybe even more to share. Ten of Pentacles is all about having an abundance of either comfort and security, or it could just literally mean resources. But it could go either way. Even if you're not filthy rich, like the Ten of Pentacles might suggest, this can just represent, I feel absolutely wonderful and safe and comfortable, and I'm enjoying my life right now. Ten of Pentacles can simply be that. I feel comfortable with my life. And that may be your feel right now. You may feel everything is good, everything's solid. And so this is a really great place for you to be in. It seems as though you might even be looking towards a new goal. Generally, tens represent endings, and right, so you might even be thinking about the next steps forward, the next goal that you would like to accomplish for yourself. Ten of Pentacles can be like, you know what, I recently graduated and, you know, I got my diploma. I want to do my own thing. I recently got a new apartment. I feel comfortable. This is great. I saw a long-term lease. You know, I just got promoted at work. Everything's fine. Everything's dandy. You know, it's a really great card to have. It just, honestly, I love the Ten of Pentacles and the feeling of the Ten of Pentacles, because it just feels as though everything is in its place. And that's kind of like the energy of the Pentacles. And like I said, if it's not feeling that way right now, it'll probably feel that way pretty soon as we get into the month of July. Things seem to be very stable for you. You have a lot of support. The Ten of Pentacles represents having a good support system. You have a lot of things that you can fall back on. This can represent skills to fall back on. This can represent money to fall back on. This can represent, you know, having other plans set in place. If certain things don't work out, you're like, I'm confident in myself. I'm secure with my abilities. I think life is going in a direction that I would like to go. And so I love to see it. King of Pentacles, you know, going off of that, this is perfect. You're a king in your kingdom, or a queen in your kingdom, but whatever the case may be, you are in your zone right now. You are in your bag, maybe quite literally here. You know, this can represent that you are deciding or I guess the King of Pentacles is always deciding, but you're deciding the best choices that you can possibly even make when it comes to expanding your resources or expanding more of your comfort, stability, maybe making improvements. Like I said, 10 of Pentacles can represent things that are new coming in, some sort of new plans. For example, maybe you get an apartment and you're like, oh my gosh, I really like this apartment, but I want to make a few improvements here. You know, I want to put in this type of couch. I wouldn't mind switching out the stove from something that is gas to electric. Like, it's just like you might want to make a few tweaks and things. And it feels like you are in a good place to do so. I love to see the King of Pentacles for July. If you are not there yet, trust and believe this month is going to bring about some stability for you. You know, there have been times when I've pulled, you know, King of Pentacles or Queen of Pentacles, and I'm just like, I am nowhere near that space. So I don't know how next month's going to go. And then next month, you know, I get some, you know, surprises in store when it comes to financial support and things along the lines of that, or making more money, right? That is the essence of this King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles is making sure that they have ultimate stability. And so to me, this is like, I don't have any issues right now. I'm steady when it comes to this financial area. I feel confident in myself, because this card also reads as self-esteem and self-worth. This is representing that you will, at least at some point in the month of July, feel pretty good about yourself. You're feeling as though you make wise choices. You're feeling as though, you know, you can take your time to really think things through. You're trusting your own judgment. You're coming up with a solid plan for many different areas. Doesn't have to just be financially. I mean, the King of Pentacles just generally represents somebody who feels very confident in their abilities to navigate their own life, navigate their own journey. I really love to see this card when it comes to self-worth and self-esteem, because it's a sense of groundedness. It's a sense of responsibility, and you're owning and taking accountability for your decisions. And not only that, but you're learning from it, and you're moving further towards more long-term goals. You're not making too many impulse purchases. You may make a few, because we got this Mars in the second house. You may make a few, but it's nothing that's going to rock the foundations of your stability. This is very wise choices. And not only that, but I love to see this for self-esteem, because it's a sense of determination. It's a sense of being, I guess, comfortable with who you are. There's nothing critical about it. Like, normally we get in our headspaces sometimes and we can be very self-conscious, but the King of Pentacles may recognize, he may have some moments of being self-conscious, but ultimately he's like, you know what? Those thoughts are just silly. I'm the man. Like, I got it like that. I'm exactly who I think I am. And so I really like that. You have this boss energy this month. It's very self-reflected energy. You're very committed towards your goals. You're very steady. Same with this 10 of Pentacles energy. It is all about slow, stable growth and making progress towards any goal that you are setting for yourself through the month of July. So really, really good month for yourself. You're really stepping up and, like I said, taking ownership of your decisions, who you are, being clear-minded, being steadfast, being resilient. This is fantastic. And like I said, this can also represent in terms of like income. There may be a boost in income, like I already mentioned here, when it comes to Mars in the second house, because it connects to that Scorpio energy, having to do with shared resources and possibly even bonuses that could represent that as well. This may feel like a boost in income for some of you. And if not a boost of income, it could be a boost in savings. Sometimes I've gotten the Pentacles for that. This is like, oh, I'm refinancing a few things and that maybe I can save in some different areas that will help me meet some sort of goal that I'm looking for. If you have a saving goal, this would be that, hey, I'm getting close to that goal, or I've accomplished that goal and things along the lines of that. And I've saved in different areas to hit that goal a little bit faster. This is a very very practical mindset that you have as you're moving throughout the month. So I love to see it. It also represents a sense of ambition, okay? So I really love all of that energy for you. And like I said, when it comes to family, you know, there could be a tiff with family, but this can also represent that your family fights for you. And so, as I mentioned before with the Ten of Pentacles having a lot of support here, the King of Pentacles, you know, also has that support. He has a whole kingdom. You know, he rules the Ten of Pentacles kingdom, right? And so this can represent that, like, if anyone, you know, tries to mess with you in the month of July, you know, your family has your back, or your friends that feel like family have your back. There is that going on for you when it comes to this area. Let's move on a little bit. So we have the Moon card here when it comes to the career. So the Moon card is interesting because it is very reflective. Here on the card, we have Pisces and Neptune connected to the Moon and its energy. And we know that there is a sense of changeability when it comes to Neptune. I did a short video when it came to Neptune beauty. And one thing that I saw that was consistent is the metamorphic like energy when it comes to Neptune. Nothing is very stable or, you know, consistent. So though you yourself has a sense of consistency, it doesn't seem as though the work environment, you know, does. You know, the Moon can represent secrets and things being hidden. And so there may be some hush hush behind the scenes. And when I get the Moon card in general, it's kind of like you have to read between the lines a little bit when it comes to work. All right. And this can also represent that there's some changes going on because the Moon goes through different phases. And so throughout the month of July, you may find that the work environment is shifting a little bit. And then also, the Moon can connect to gossip and, you know, people having hidden agendas. I feel like I'm leading too much with the negative, but, you know, follow your instincts when it comes to work for the month of July. Positive things about the Moon, I'll mention, is that the Moon can represent having a reputation that is very alluring and very sociable in a sense. The Moon obviously rotates around the sun. There's some sort of gravitational force and it gets its light from the sun, right? At least part of it. And so when we're talking about, you know, how the energy is reflected off another, it's almost like the Moon is not truly itself without the sun. And so how this shows up when in reality, in the practical real world, is that you may have a lot of people surrounding you. This is like I'm working with a team. The Moon doesn't really work in solitude. That's what I mean when I say that pool, that energy, that back and forth, that playing off of each other. That is all about how the Moon needs to coordinate with people, collaborate with other people. So there may be more collaboration within the work environment. You may find yourself working with new people. There could be some more communication. I've found the Moon to be a very wordy planet, you know. So I can definitely see that throughout the month of July for you. And as I said, this can definitely represent some changes and some switches in the work environment. I also read this card to represent reputation as well. This can give a very mysterious reputation because people may feel like there is more than one side of you. They may get like a pleasant, fun, happy side of you, but then it's like there's this other side that they may see like hints of, and they're just like, there's something there. And that could just be that you're showing up to work and you're being very cheerful, but really you're exhausted and you're tired and you're like, oh, please leave me alone, right? I've seen that a lot with the Moon ruled energy here. Could be opposite too, where, you know, at work you're just dragging, and then you have this amazing out of work life where you're more energetic and things along the lines of that. But either way, the reputation is very layered. I'll say that. Like, different people will have different perceptions of you. Remember that the Moon is very changeable. There is a lot to know about the Moon, and it represents the dark. There's so many things we cannot see in the dark, and so many things that represent being hidden and unknown to us and mysterious. And this can also give like a little psychic reputation. Maybe you're just known around the office to be that guy or girl who's into astrology and tarot and the occult, right? There's just a little bit of that. It can be very straightforward in that way. But if we're talking about work and its vibes this month, I also just represent this to be just a lot of things going on behind the scenes. It's just a very deeply intricate environment that can call for you to use your intuition to navigate. That is what I have seen best. The moon also connects to the mystical and things along the lines of that, and the fantastical and fantasy. So maybe there's some things that just feel a bit unexplainable about work, and that could just literally mean, hey, like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Maybe people are coming up to you and asking you questions about certain task projects, or even things like, let's say I worked in a store, somebody comes up to me, hey, do you have the latest blah 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 shoe or something, and you're just like, I have no clue what you're talking about. We don't even sell shoes here, right? So it could just be a lot of that going on, like, just what are you talking about? This whole month just feels like the communication is all over the place. Where are people getting this information from? People are interpreting things differently, or however they want to interpret things. So there is a little bit of that. All right. And then lastly, this can represent daydreaming at work, and maybe even given a reputation for daydreaming, just kind of being off in your own world. In a way, definitely 100%. And I also say, trying to think of other things about the moon card here. Positive things, it can bring about some compliments, you know. It can definitely bring about some compliments from people. As I mentioned, there is a magnetism when it comes to the moon, and there is a sense of community as well. It just depends on the environment, how balanced that community is. You know, it could be very much like Stepford Wives, or it could be like we're Teletubbies, we're besties, you know. It's just the moon's energy is very unpredictable. So I do want to say that think about the moon every time you've pulled it. Aren't things so unclear? So things may feel a little bit unclear at work. There's just things going on. And when we get to this strength card, when it comes to family and friends and love and romance and things that you love to do in general, strength card definitely represents some patience. And like I said, you know, maybe there's some family or friends or that get on your little nerves a little bit this month, and you're just like, you're trying my patience. You are really working my nerves here. And that could be with a romantic partner as well. Second house rules family. So if you're married or engaged, that can definitely be a message for you. But 100%, it could be those family, friends, and loved ones are working your nerves this month, and you have to be patient with them. You have to sort of be very kind and empathetic towards them. It is a card of long-term, not sustainability, but, you know, long-term gain. You know, it's that short-term pleasure versus long-term pleasure, right? You know, if you wait for something, or you resist something for a little bit longer, you may gain something in the long term versus if you dive to something right away, right? It's something along the lines of that. And there's many examples of that. For example, you could look at gambling. That is more so, hey, I'm trying to make quick, fast money versus, you know, I want to get a job, then I want to save, and then I want to slowly start a business and build wealth. It's a slower process, but you're more likely to have stability. And so that is kind of like the energy when it comes to the love life. You're like, hey, I can pop off and lash out, and that'll feel good in the moment. But I would really like to have a long-term, sustainable, lasting relationship where we have trust with each other. And so I'm not going to say the things that I want to say at this moment. I'm going to put those on hold. and I'm going to take a more empathetic approach to our relationship. That is a possibility within this month. And I do want to say that this is the After Tarot deck. And so on this deck, we have the woman taming the lion. And so it looks like things may be even smoothing out in the area of love or friendships at some point in the month of July here, or family members, whatever the case may be, because of that energy of understanding and mutual respect. It's like, okay, I finally have calmed down. Like, you know, it's a bit of that going on when it comes to this month. So keep that in mind. It doesn't necessarily mean that this month is full bickering. I feel like this is slowly moving to a place where there is more understanding and, like I said, trust and unionship, right? So this is really good when I see for the month. Also, when it comes to the Strength card, when it comes to things that you might love, things that you might be working on, this can represent having to really grind away. Okay, the Strength card wants you to put forth your best effort in order to make progress in the things that you love. For example, if you have a hobby, let's say my hobby was hiking, and I don't know how hikers do it. Do hikers like have different challenges? I bet they do, right? They probably try to start off with a smaller hike, a more easy hike, and then as they get more into hiking, they're probably doing like more intense hikes. So this is like, I've got to build up to that intense hike, and I've got to move so that I can gain enough muscle, gain enough stamina. I'm guessing there has to do something with lung capacity when it comes to the hiking in order to get to that level. So you're trying to you might be getting to that next level in your hobby if you have a certain hobby that you like to do. If you don't have like a particular hobby, maybe you're just like reading a book, or I guess book reading could be a hobby, but you know, let's say you're reading a book and this book is just a pain to get through. Like the first couple of chapters are so boring and you're like, this is struggle, but I've committed to this, so I'm gonna finish this book. And then by the end you're like, actually, you know, it picks up after, you know, 7 chapters and it starts to get good. So that's kind of like the Strength card energy when it comes to the things that you love doing, overcoming challenges. You know, that is what the Strength card is all about. Having that inner strength to be able to push through obstacles, inner resilience, waiting for the right time or approach. That is also a possibility depending on what you love to do. Sometimes it can represent, you know, things being a little bit more delayed. For example, maybe you had a plan to go to the movies with friends, but then they're just like, oh my gosh, like I forgot that I have to go to my sister's birthday party that weekend. I completely forgot about that. And so those plans get a little bit delayed, and then you have to push it back and you guys go to the movie the weekend after next or something along the lines of that. But it's definitely representing a little bit of a delay, more waiting, having to push things off, having to be patient when it comes to those areas. If you have some sort of business, this is like slowly growing within the business. You might hit like a rough patch. It might be some sort of time where it feels as though, oh my goodness, like it is so hard to overcome, to gain new clients, to gain more followers if you're into social media. And it takes time and it takes patience to build that. You know, you may have to go back and look at a new tactic, find new marketing strategies, be proactive. Granted, this is more waiting, but yeah, there's a little bit of proactivity when it comes to the Strength card. Being a little bit more proactive when it comes to, you know, gaining certain clientele. That is a possibility when it comes to that. If you have no interest in those business matters, like I said, this just represents, you know, having to be patient about taking strides in any sort of skill set, thing that you love, hobby, plans for fun, and just having to be patient so things work out as planned. I also get the Strength card to be connected to nature. And so if you're somebody who's into more nature-oriented hobbies or things that you like to do. You might find yourself doing that a bit more this month. That is something that is very much strength related, being at one with the natural environment. This can even be like, hey, I'm taking out my dog for a walk. Like I'm going to the zoo to see some animals. Like I am, out there, like I mentioned before, going on those hikes and whatever the case may be. But it does represent sort of like being in the natural world, the natural environment a little bit more, being in nature more. That's no surprise. It is summertime. And so things are, heating up, right? And so it's a bit nicer to go outside. And there is a bit of that might be going on when it comes to those things within the areas of the things that you love. So I do want you to know that. If you are single and you're not even thinking about being in a relationship, well, what this is deciding is like, hey, I'm just going to wait for the right person. I'm going to wait for the right timing. As I said, the strength is, it's like proactive, but not, it's like I set myself up to maybe meet someone, maybe like, oh, I'm open to meeting someone. Maybe I created a dating profile. So I've set myself up to meet someone, but I'm not necessarily, swiping right every day. The patient card is like, I'll take my time with it. I'll swipe when I can. And, whenever I meet someone is when I meet someone. It's a bit of that sort of attitude. And then for some of you, it may even just be like, I'll just hold off on that for a minute. Let me just hold off on that for a minute before I can jump back into the dating pool. It's not the right time for me. I'd rather focus on some other things. I'd rather spend time with my pet guinea pig rather than a man or a woman or whoever. Like, I just don't have a patience for it right now. I'm going to wait until it feels right for me. And that is something that this can mean when it comes to strength. So, and then lastly, when I talk about strength, this can represent having hard conversations. So whoever your loved ones are, whether that be your children, whether that be your mom, your dad, your cousin, your friends, your bestie, whoever, this can represent having the courage to have those hard, vulnerable conversation. There's an element of vulnerability when it comes to strength. You have to remember this woman has put herself in harm's way by trying to tame the lion. So like I said, there is a sense of doing that, doing the hard conversation, speaking your truth, working in collaboration with someone, letting your voice be heard, so that things can move forward in a better light. This can also represent the need to forgive and make up for certain people. So I do want to say that, but it just represents having a sense of self-control. And if you have a tendency to lash out, which I don't think you do with all these pentacles and stability, but Mars in the second house can give a sharp tongue, and you may be known for saying that, some harsh things. It can happen. But it just represents, I'm not going to lash out. I'm just going to let them speak their truth, and I'll speak my mind, and we can move from there. Okay, I do want to say that. But it does seem like these people are making up if there is some sort of, things going on in that area. So for the Knight of Swords, wow, the Knight of Swords, when it comes to this reading, the Knight of Swords is very much a rookie. He's somebody who has a quest for knowledge, a quest for some sort of thrill. He thinks he knows it all, but he does not. But he does have a sense of enthusiasm when it comes to learning, when it comes to making plans, when it comes to communicate. But sometimes the Knight of Swords acts a little bit impulsively. There goes that word again. So there may be, like I said, some impulsive decisions when it comes to things that you might do this month. that you may feel like, oh, that probably wasn't my best decision that I could have possibly done. You know, I have gotten the Knight of Swords to represent, you know, making snap judgments or jumping to conclusions, which, given your work environment, is not really surprising here. It does seem to be a little bit unclear in that area. Generally, the Knights kind of deal with extremes, and they're working on creating some sort of balance. You know, that's the thing when it comes to the Knight of Swords. But I really feel as though it does represent that you have an openness to tackle on new things this month, especially in the areas when it comes to relationships. If you're somebody who's not used to having hard conversations, the Knight of Swords is going to more than likely put you in a position where you're going to have to learn to do that, learn to be able to manage those hard conversations, and really practice makes perfect. It is not like we're all ingrained with us to say I statements instead of you. A lot of us will lead with the you statements, meaning like, you did this and you made me mad and you blah blah blah, instead of saying when you did this, I felt blah 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 blah, right? You know, the I statements is something that's usually taught, right? And so the Knight of Swords is somebody who's being taught the best ways and to communicate their message. And this month you may find yourself having some learning curves in that area of communication and with relationships with others. This can also represent, you know, having like negotiations, having new conversations that you weren't particularly well versed in. For example, I was just listening to someone who talked about the first time that someone was talking about sort of like world events, right? Like different histories of world events. And they were listening to the conversation of people around them. And they were like, you know what? I'm just not that educated on these world events. And so what they decided to do was go back, educate themselves. And so the next time that conversation came around, they could participate, right? And then the Knight of Swords is very much like that. You may be in conversations or in around people who are having conversations about things that you may not know too much about, and you might decide to educate yourself a bit more. The Knight of Swords, I love this card because he's always willing to grow and question things and expand his mind. You know, he may not always get it right, but he does have a strong thirst for knowledge and truth. He wants to be wise. He wants to be able to grow in intelligence. And so to me, it seems like, you know, you're upgrading your intelligence, your mind, your wisdom, your ability to make clear decisions, okay? You're making sure that you have your own process for decision making that is clear, that is honest, that is balanced, and you're not leaning too much in a different direction, one direction more so in the other, okay? I would say, you know, the Knight of Swords can definitely be a card who does their best to uncover the truth. And I will also mention that because we got this Moon card for work, and I know the Knight of Swords can, like I said, represent those extremes, the same way they can be extremely honest, the same way they can also be extremely deceptive. And so this month, you could be dealing with some people who may be a bit deceptive. Now, I'm not trying to scare you or anything. I just want you to know that there's a possibility with the Knight of Swords, and then you have to do your best to uncover the truth. There is some sort of gossipy nature about the Knight of Swords. Also, there may be a tendency to overthink, right? The Knight of Swords is very much like all knights, like I mentioned a billion times in this reading. It's all about struggling to balance when it comes to that. And when we talk about swords, you can just look at the sword deck. The sword's downfall is they overthink things, or they get caught up in the past and they have all these worries and anxieties, and they're thinking about all these people who betrayed them before, and this person's intention, and that person's got my back, and there's a sense of paranoia with the swords, right? So the Knight of Swords can sometimes lean to that side, and then on the other side, the Knight of Swords can, you know, be honest, and so they think everyone else is very honest, right? So there's a bit of that going on, but I do see you gathering more information. I do see you learning. I do see you growing. I do see you having a lot of random conversations with people, maybe some miscommunications at some point, but you know, maybe at sometimes your tongue might slip. It can happen, but I don't think it would be with the loved ones. The loved ones, you're kind of like, let me hold back, and maybe more so with acquaintances and things along the lines of that. We do have Taurus, I have, and I feel like we've talked so much about the I have and the material worlds. But, you know, we could talk a little bit more about Taurus energy here. So Taurus energy likes commitment, likes stability, likes all the joys and comforts, likes shopping. You could be doing a bit of shopping this month when it comes to that. You could be enjoying yourself in the food environment. I even talk about how the King of Pentacles, when it comes to things that they consume, usually things of higher quality, if not things that they enjoy. The King of Pentacles is more health oriented though, but it's got to taste good. It's got to taste good. The King of Pentacles does like to have more balance and variety. There is a sense of trying new things as well with Taurus, but for the most part, when I've seen Tauruses, they do like their foods as comfort, right? I mean, that is one thing that I have seen be a big theme, but not, you know, not every Taurus is food obsessed, right? Let's be honest. But I have seen them, you know, want to expand when it comes to collecting just a certain item. And so this may be about getting your hands on a certain things, right? Particular items, particular things that you might like. That is something that is a quite possibility when it comes to the I have. I'm focusing a lot on the material, but when I think about the element of Taurus, just in general, at least the Tauruses I've been associated with or that I have come in contact with, is there is a general sense of ambition and work ethic, which makes sense because in order to be this I have, all right, camera got too hot, but as I was saying, what I've seen from Tauruses is a sense of determination and a strong need to follow your passion. And it's kind of interesting because you have the story of Zeus, who sees this beautiful princess, disguises himself as a bull. Once she decides to sit on his back, he runs away with her and basically abducts her, turns back into his regular form, gives her a bunch of gifts, and then they have a bunch of children, right? So it's interesting that the mythology almost has that determined mindset as well, where the story of Taurus is about having this sense of determination to go after what you desire. And I feel like in this month, there is a bit of that. You know, you may not know all the right ways to accomplish that, but you do have a solid head on your shoulders. You do seem to have a lot of success, especially past success, even present success, or you're gaining that this month. And I feel as though you're likely to find your way and navigate to the best situation for yourself. I think that things look pretty good this month when it comes to obtaining certain things that you desire, and even having the opportunity to treat yourself, to allow yourself to enjoy the fruits of your labor. The King of Pentacles spares no expense. And so I really do see as though that sense of determination, that sense of follow through, feeling as though you need to possess certain things or accumulate certain things, that's definitely going to be a strong theme throughout this month. And there also is a little bit of an element of creativity. So I don't know if you have a creative side, but this would indicate that you may be even letting a part of that shine as well. So that is what I have for you, pile number 3. Hopefully it resonates and you have a beautiful, beautiful July. Don't forget, I go live on the weekends. That's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Time is posted on community tab by Tuesday night Eastern Standard Time. And I'm not sure when this will be posted, but you know, the readings will be back up end of July. And I also may do some pop-ups, so be on the lookout for that. Next reading will be on Thursday as always, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal, number 4. Let's get into your July 2025. We have the Knight of Pentacles representing you, the 10 of Swords reverse representing finance. We have the Justice card for career. Ooh. We have the Tower when it comes to the love life. We have Justice for the theme for the month. And we have our Oracle cards this time. Had to switch it up instead of the Nakshatra cards to the Lunar Eclipse Change. We also have our Astro Dice as always. So let's get into this. We have Venus in Libra in the 6th house. I'm trying to make sure that's 6. I wish they didn't do these cards that way. It's definitely 6. All right. Okay, that's not bad. So Venus and Libra in the 6th house. First of all, Libra's at home. So when we talk about general Libra being in the sign of its, Venus being in the sign of its home, in the sign where it feels comfortable, that is good news, because when we have Venus and Libra, it's all about relationship this month. And it's kind of interesting because we did get the Justice card twice, which also, if you can see it on the card, Venus in Libra. That is what it represents. So there's a lot of Venus and Libra themes. What does this mean? The focus is on relationships. The focus is on connections. And it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationships. This can be relationships between coworker and coworker, boss and boss, therapist and you and a trainer, you and somebody you would see regularly, because this would be a personal relationship that you would have. This can also be like a friend. Like if you see this friend quite frequently, for example, like somebody in college, you might see your friends more. You might see them more regularly, daily. Then it can be something like a friend. But that's generally like high school, college, school. Generally as an adult, you don't always see your friend every day unless they're like a roommate or something. But it's all about personal relationships. This can also talk about relationships between if you have clientele, if you have customers, if you have a business, this would be relationships in regards to that, and as well as the general romantic partnerships. So we're talking about smoothing over relationships, bringing peace and harmony into relationships in your life. This month is all about the communication you have with others. Venus doesn't like to fight. Venus, well, I shouldn't say doesn't like to fight, because Venus can be quite a fierce planet, but ultimately Venus's goal is to build connections, to create harmony, to create balance, to create peace. So this relationship, it does seem to be that the focus is on creating better relationships with those around you, or personal relationships, or audience, and all of the people that I named here. It can also be about having the support of others and valuing others more, especially since we have Venus in the 7th house. Venus is what you value. And generally when it's in the sign of Libra, it's valuing others. It's valuing the company and what you get from others, whether that is connection, whether that is love, whether that is money. You know, it can be that as well, which is why we talk about the marketplace and clientele and contracts along the lines of that. Because we have Justice a couple times, maybe you guys are talking through things with, you know, lawyers, legal matters. That is also a strong possibility when it comes to this month, especially since we have the 6th house. You know, that is all about trying to negotiate things. If there is a settlement, if there is a splitting of assets and a divorce or a relationship or a breakup. You know, sometimes people are like, well, we got this dog during the relationship. Who gets the dog, right? So there is that splitting of what's mine and what's yours. Or like I said, it's the soothing over of conflict. Venus doesn't want to fight all the time. It's exhausting. And Venus is not a planet of energy, though it has a lot of it. It generally doesn't have the same stamina as like Mars or Saturn to keep going and going. And it's like, we've got to reach a peace agreement here. There has got to be some sort of way that we can come to an agreement, to come to a moment of pause. And so this month focuses heavily on those relationships. For those of you who have clients, who have an audience, or trying to build an audience and trying to build a following, this is trying to figure out the best way to overcome those challenges, especially if we're talking about Venus and Libra in the 6th house. The 6th house is all about competition, and it's about how can I make sure that I stand out from the competition. Venus is all about uniqueness and being an individual, similar to Mars in a way. It's like, how can I make sure that people understand my personal, what do you call it when your personal niche, your personal gig, your gimmick. So it's a way to make yourself stand out in the work environment. For example, when I was waitressing, I met this Libra individual. And one thing that I learned, because I had to shadow different waitresses and they all had their different style, but her in particular, she made sure that she focused on having a particular gimmick in order to separate herself from the other waitresses, which is not something that I saw emphasized with those other people and their sign placements. She was focused on, okay, this is how I do things. I do things special for my customers so that I can stand out and they want to come sit in my section. And then when they come into the restaurant, they ask for me so that I get tips. So she had a more business-oriented mindset. So you can see how Libra deals with the individual. It deals with marketing yourself and standing out amongst the competition. Also, it can represent having a way to create a sales pitch. Out of all the people that I shadowed in the restaurant, she was the one who was best to able to turn around a situation. Like, for example, if we ran out of fries, she could turn around that situation and say, you know what, we don't have fries, but we have this great, I'll say tater tots that are sprinkled with, you know, I don't know, I'll say some fabulous seasoning. She might not put it like that. She was better as a salesperson than me. Fabulous seasoning, fresh from, you know, this garden in, I don't know, Montana, etc., whatever, organic. Like, she would spin it around to make it seem like, you know, even though we don't have this thing, we have this thing that is just as good or better that you're going to love. So there's something about this month that has to do with marketing yourself, standing out in front of the competition, or even, you know, convincing the competition or working with them in order to build a better relationships, better businesses, etc. It's like, hey, I want to work with you, you know, let's work together in this, like we're a unit or something along the lines of that. If you can't beat them, join them. Like, that's the kind of philosophy we have here partially. So I'm giving you various different examples of how this can play out for you in this month. This can also represent something like, you know what, I just decided to adopt a pet. This can also represent that you're working your butt off this month. Venus is quite the ambitious planet, especially in the 6th house. So it's like, I'm working hard to gain money. I'm working hard to gain luxuries. Venus in the 6th house connects to fighting battles in order to make sure that you have a sense of security. One thing that's also happens when you have Venus in the 6th house, if we're moving away from the work and marketing yourself, is that this month there is a focus on health and rejuvenation. And so you could be changing your workout routine, your diet, even your appearance. Because when we talk about Venus in the 6th house, it's similar to having like a Venus in Virgo. And what I've noticed about people with Venus in Virgo is they're very particular about their appearance and how they like to present themselves in the world. And so you may be trying to present yourself in a more beautified manner. You may be taking a critical look at your beauty. Sometimes this can even represent beauty procedures being done or having things to improve your health, your physical body, your appearance, changing your clothes, switching up the style. 6th house definitely relates to clothes and things that you own. If you have some powerful 6th house transits, you might even change your wardrobe, switch out your closet, go shopping. I've definitely seen that with the Venus and just general 6th house transits there. But generally, there's going to be some improvements in that situation. And this can also represent financial improvements because the 6th house is a material house there. And that doesn't surprise me because we do have this 7 of Swords reversed here. And to me, it's like, you know, all of those swords are falling financially and you're finally deciding to see, you're finally seeing things clearly, okay? So we'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to give you some thoughts when it came to Venus and Libra in the 6th house, but we've got to move on. We've got to move on. We got to move on. We have the Knight of Pentacles representing you. That's no surprise here as to where your current energies are, especially since we already talked about this Venus in the 6th house in Libra. You're taking a practical approach this month. Knight of Pentacles is that workaholic, let's get to business. Now, sometimes the Knight of Pentacles makes some mistakes. You know, sometimes they overlook things. They might miss small details, or they might even be too detail oriented. They might be doing too much. But it's all about trying to work out that balance when it comes to the Knight of Pentacles and how you're doing things. I like to give this example when I see the Knight of Pentacles. One time I've seen the Knight of Pentacles to represent somebody who is trying to start a business, and they were doing all of this in-depth research without having sort of like a solid business plan of what they wanted to buy or sell. They had an intention of wanting to sell things, but they weren't sure where they wanted to sell it. Was it on Etsy? Was it on Amazon? What exactly is the business model? What value are you adding? What exactly is the sort of I guess I'll say thesis of your business? What is your vision? And so there wasn't a clear-cut vision. And so they were kind of diving deep into all of the type of things that they wanted to sell without having a strong vision set forth. So sometimes the Knight of Pentacles can get a little bit ahead of themselves. And that might be your energy right now. You might be charging ahead without a clear-cut plan, but that's okay. Like I said, I love to see the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is learning. All of knights are learning, and you are trying to make the best choices for yourself given the information at hand. So this can potentially also represent part of this month being a month of learning, a month of growing, a month of development, especially when it comes to practical matters, whether that is gaining skill sets. I always emphasize the skill sets because Pentacles and Swords in particularly connect to skill sets, whether that is you looking at practical matters and things in your life that you need to do or reorganize. Maybe your house or apartment is a mess and you're like, I gotta do something about this. I've got to restructure. I've got to bring in some organization. Knight of Pentacles always wants to implement new ideas and new structures. They may not have that solid vision or solid plan, but they have some sort of idea of what they want to do. And so it does represent bringing in new energy, new thoughts, new structures, new things to help bring about more consistency and honestly to make the flow of things easier in your life, especially in the areas of finances, career, health, getting to goals in general, whether that is some goals you have for your career or whether that is some personal goals. It's like, how can I go about achieving them? And that is kind of a bit of your focus this month. I wouldn't say kind of, it is a bit of your focus this month, and even maybe your energy right now. You're like, I need to take some new practical steps forward, and I need to look at this at a more detailed point of view. And I've got to learn a few things about myself, or even how I want to get things done. I've already kind of talked a little bit about the Seven of Swords. We talked about how the Seven of Swords reverse is kind of like on the original tarot deck, you see these swords in someone's back. And when you see it reversed, that swords are coming out of the back. So you may have had a lot of anxieties about the financial situation, stresses about how you might pay certain things. If you have any debts, you might be worried about how you're going to pay those off. There's just a lot of anxiety and worries about the future when you come to the Ten of Swords. It can also feel like a little bit being trapped. And then sometimes it can even feel like you were betrayed or tricked in financial situations. For example, Ten of Swords can represent like fraud. We do have that Seven of Swords in the suit of swords, and that Five of Swords, right? That win at any cost. So you may even be looking back at these situations where, you know, people haven't been as honest with you up front, and you're just like, oh man, I could have saved this much money doing this thing. That is, you know, very disappointing, right? It's almost like when you go to those car dealerships and they're trying to convince you to buy this thing and that thing. And maybe in the past you might have fallen for something like that. And you're looking back and saying, oh, I should have just said this, that, and the third thing. Well, now these swords are coming out of your back and you're letting go of some of those past anxieties when you have about finances. And seeing how we have this Knight of Pentacles, you might even start to be implementing a new plan when it comes to the finances. Either way, this does show some relief in that area. Yeah, you may still have some stresses and some anxieties. I mean, maybe you will. I'm trying to make it nice, but I mean, it's still the Ten of Swords, but it is reversed. So there is less worries, there is less stressors, and you're starting to come up with a solid plan. Like I said, it's a clearing of the thinking. And as I already mentioned with the Venus in the 6th house, that can represent tackling financial issues. And so to me this month, it looks like you are taking steps forward to tackle those financial issues. Anything that you might need to go back on and reevaluate, any sort of payments you need to go back and spend or restructure. Sometimes people refinance things. Reversals often have to do with, you know, all of those rewords, restructure, refinance, redo. There's a lot of that going on in the month of July when it comes to your financial area of your life. And then also when it comes to obtaining resources, well, you know, it's not really anything new yet when it comes to the material matters and it comes to making more money. That's not necessarily what these cards are about. It's kind of like clearing out the clutter when it comes to the finances, maybe even deciding what you need to keep, what you need to get rid of. There is some of that going on, but in terms of like making more money or even losing money, that's not necessarily an issue. It's more than likely that things will stay relatively the same in terms of like income and things coming in. Swords I generally get when it comes to finances to not necessarily be the worst card, because a lot of it is mental. And so it represents having a lot of thoughts about the financial areas, but it doesn't necessarily mean movement in those areas. For example, you could make the same check every 2 weeks and one person could feel pretty good about it and the other person could feel terrible about it. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily represent something that is based in practical reality. It's more so a mentality. And so, like I said, right now you're alleviating stress in those areas and you're deciding not to worry yourself so much. When it comes to the self-esteem, there is similar theme when it comes to that. This is like saying I'm gonna beat myself up a little bit less, and I might even if you have a habit of this, I'm not saying that you do, but I might even decide to forgive those around me for not helping me out when I needed it, because the Ten of Swords can represent that feeling of betrayal. And so when we have it reversed, it's kind of like, okay, I'm starting to see their perspective and why they might not have wanted to lend me certain money or helped me with certain ways, or why they might not have had really great advice for me financially, because maybe they're down bad themselves. So it's a little bit like, okay, I'm starting to see other people's perspectives in the matter, and that's just maybe for some of you if you've been through those situations. But generally, it's representing those feelings sort of disappearing, dissipating when it comes to those feelings in the area of finances. And like I said, this month, there's a little bit less beating yourself up. There's still a little bit of it. There's still a little bit going on, but you're less negative when it comes to how you feel about yourself and where you're standing. You're like, I gotta let this go. I can't live this way. I can't continue to think about all of these past things I could have done differently, and I've got to move to a different state that feels lighter for me, because this is just making me feel not great. When we have the Justice card for career, and we've gotten it twice here for the overall theme of this month, and like I already mentioned with the Venus and Libra, there's a strong theme of all of this going on. So it seems to me that there's a strong focus on your career this month, because we do have that 6th house of work being focused on. We have the career being work, and we got the Justice card for the overall thing. So the cards are pointing to work, 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 work. So this is a month where a lot of things are going on at work, or a lot of your attention is being drawn into this area. And so for those of you, let's start with those who might be unemployed. This can represent obtaining a job, signing a contract, and actually finding an actual new home for you to work in. I say that because, like I said, Venus and Libra Justice card deals with contracts, and generally when you are onboarding, you have to sign that contract to get employed. The onboarding process calls for that, right? So it's a good thing if you are unemployed right now. But if you already have a job, then this represents bringing things to a more balanced state when it comes to the work environment. Obviously, that's part of your efforts as well. Maybe there have been some conflicts in your team, and now it's time to put things on the table and say, you know what, we have to figure out a way to work together as a unit, as a team, because the way things currently are now, they're not exactly flowing in the best manner. And it looks like this month that there does seem to be even some new rules or regulations that might even be put in place, because the Justice card connects to rules, regulations, procedures, company compliances, looking at that employee handbook about procedures and things along the lines of that. And the company might be deciding to implement some of those new ideas, or creating a new structure to create more harmony and balance in the work environment. I also get the Justice card to represent a lot of communication when it comes to work. There is wordiness going back and forth, emails, meetings, meeting in person, whatever the case may be, but the communication is heavy this month when it comes to work. And for some of you, maybe this has to do with some karma in the work environment, whether that karma is towards you or someone else. I don't know. This is a general reading. But it does seem to say, like, let's say your work wasn't treating you fairly. Well, then there is some karma having to go to maybe the people who weren't treating you fairly. They get their dues, you know, coming to them. And that does represent that when it comes to justice. Justice is laying down the law and say, this is not right. You are going to have to receive that punishment, that karma, that payback, whatever the case may be. Whatever you put forward is going to come back to you. That is that karma. So the consequences of your actions. And that could be positive consequences for your actions if you've done right by yourself, the workplace, etc. If you've been, you know, a great employee, you've been treating people with kindness and respect and offering help to others, then that's going to come back to you. You know, this can be positive karma coming your way as well. And then I've already mentioned previously that this can also deal with legal matters at work. Perhaps your company is doing something shady. Who knows? You know, that happens all the time. And you have to talk to an employment lawyer, and that may be a scenario for a small portion of you. But when it comes to work, there does seem to be a lot of honesty put on the table. There's no more things hiding in the shadow. It seems as though people in leadership are having these very straightforward conversations with you. There's an emphasis when it comes to having more integrity in the work environment and making sure that things are being fair. No more playing favorites at work for people who are maybe managers or higher ups in that case. And this can also represent working, like I said, one-on-one when it comes to those projects, when it comes to tasks you need to work on. You may find yourself working in a closer team as well. These are all the possibilities when it comes to work, but ultimately, I have seen this to be mainly a lot of communication, a lot of having to reach out to people, maybe a little bit exhausting depending on what your personality is like, but heavy on the communication. And maybe it is that you are trying to achieve a raise, and so maybe you're highlighting your accomplishments in those matters. Like I said, Venus can be a little bit of a competitor, and so it may say, hey, I have done this and this for the company, I deserve a raise here, come on. And we have to remember that Libra connects to the 7th house, that is 10th from the 10th. And so there does seem to be, like I said, an emphasis when it comes on making sure that the work is paying you fairly, that there does seem to be maybe some good benefits being offered. Maybe you're even learning more about the benefits that your company offers and what they can do for you as an employee. Venus is a guru, so they're always learning. And that is something that can be highlighted when it comes to this 10th house. This also represents your reputation, and this is a pretty good reputation. Represents things being fair, represents things being people seeing you as someone who they can trust and they can lean on. People see you as somebody who is very cooperative and works well with others. And so this is a positive reputation as we move through July. When we're talking to the Tower, when it comes to love, and I read this card as things you love, people you love, what you love doing, there are some surprises in this area. Now, the Tower can represent good surprises, bad surprises, maybe a little bit of both in those areas. So whether you're in a relationship, there are some powerful truths coming out. So I like to use one example when I got the Tower for a particular month, and that month it was like I had to, there were some communication problems in a work environment, and honestly that Tower month was me coming out with all of the issues that I have had with communications with my team. You know, it was like I gotta spill the beans to someone because this is just not working for me. I have to make sure we make some changes. And that is that Tower moment. It's like we're coming out with the truth because this needs to change and this needs to transform. I will say, you know, the Tower moment is the moment to initiate, to get things moving along. It doesn't necessarily mean that the changes are happening this month. I know we always say that as tarot readers, but well, not always. Sometimes I say things are happening this month, but Tower moment, I've usually said that it's the catalyst for those changes. It's saying I'm coming out with the truth. And so if you have a romantic relationship, you might be coming out with some truths to your partner. Your partner might give you some shocking truths your way that says, hey, we've got to change this relationship. Worst case scenario, this is a breakup, and this is the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to this relationship. If you are single, well, this represents maybe even, it depends. If you're dating someone, it's similar to that of a relationship where, you know, there may be some surprises. Maybe you find out something about them that, you know, doesn't sit right with you, or maybe it's something that surprises you in a good way. Like I said, the Tower, I have represented that to be good moments as well. So whatever it is a surprise, it's a shocker, and it's something that can be powerful. And also this can represent moments of enlightenment and reflection, because like I said, it's like a light bulb. It's like, oh my gosh, this just hit me like a ton of bricks. And so, for example, if you have a certain way of thinking or a certain way of doing things when it comes to dating, you may have this moment of enlightenment and say, wait, why do I do that? And then you discover the reason as to why you do that. For example, I like to use the attachment styles. Maybe you have an insecure attachment style and you're like, my goodness, why do I keep pushing people away? I don't understand why when they get close, I push them away. And then you have this revelation, you know, it's like, oh, because, you know, my father was never there for me and I never felt like I had that emotional support from them, or they were never around. And so I feel like people are always going to leave or disappoint me. And it's like, boom, I had a revelation. And so this can be having a revelation about your own patterns when it comes to your love life as well. And there's different types of revelations that we can all have when it comes to love. Maybe you hear some news from someone that, or a message from someone that really resonates with you, where you're just like, you know what? I actually have been someone who hasn't given people the opportunity to show up for me, and maybe I can do some things to alternate that. Or, you know what, I actually haven't been as vulnerable as I could be within relationships. Maybe it's time that I change that moving forward, you know, and that can apply to literally whatever relationship status you have, whether you're single, whether you're just casually dating, or whether you're not dating anyone at all. Now, when it comes to friends and family, this can also represent shocking news in that area. You know, perhaps someone gets pregnant, you know, and you're like, oh my goodness, you're pregnant. Let's celebrate that. Happy news. It can represent tragedy and things as well. I don't want to get too into that, but just know that it can represent shocking circumstances that could happen to friends or family, but I'm not trying to scare you guys, so I don't want to get into all of those moments. But we all know the Tower can represent a little bit of gloom and doom. Not even a little bit, a lot of bit of gloom and doom. Shocking situations, especially when we have, you know, justice or something like that. That's like, oh my gosh, someone was arrested, or, you know, there needs to be somebody, some legal things involved. And you might even hear some things about a family member and you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so's in jail. That's wild, right? That can happen. That can happen with the Tower moment. The Tower moment can be scary, you know, in that way, but I don't want to emphasize and focus on that. All right. So these moments can happen when it comes to that. And this can also represent breaking down familiar patterns as well. Well, perhaps, you know, you come from a family where none of them go to college, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm breaking that familiar pattern and I'm going to go to college. Or nobody in your family or everybody in your family, you know, gets divorced, and none of them go to relationship counseling, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to be the person who works on my relationship, and I'm going to go to therapy to work on my relationship with this person. And so these are the things that this can represent. And when it comes to the things that you love, sometimes I get the Tower to represent plans going awry. So you may have plans to, you know, go on some sort of adventure. Like, let's say you're like, I want to go to an adventure park, you know, this month. And, you know, that plan goes awry. It starts raining that day and you're like, oh no, my plans fall apart. So Tower moment can sometimes represent things, plans falling apart. That can happen. You know, I got the Tower card for my birthday, and pretty much all of my plans went awry. Everything I wanted to do was like Okay, this was a dud. A lot of backup plans. And so this month can represent the month of backup plans. So keep that in mind when you're being this Knight of Pentacles going through the month. Create some backup plans for you and the things that you love. And also, if the things that you love bring in some sort of clientele or additional income, it may surprise you, the clientele that you get, or maybe even income that is possible as well. You may even have some revelations, ideas about a hobby. Like, let's say you were a writer and you're writing a book and you had writer's block. The Tower comes through and it's like, oh my gosh, I have inspiration. I have such a great idea. So it can be this sort of magnanimous moment where you have this big, beautiful idea that you want to write down immediately. It's like you've been hit by lightning. You've been hit by inspiration. And because the Tower connects to Mars, this puts in a lot of effort when it comes to family and friends. You know, perhaps, you know, you have to drive long distances. You have to rearrange plans to make sure that you're there on time. There may be some sort of, you know, it can also be like, hey, I had a surprise party. Surprise! They surprised me with a surprise party. Or you could be surprising someone at a surprise party. I'm just throwing out the Tower energy here and what it can represent. But it also can represent putting efforts in towards the things that you love doing. So that's something I want you to keep in mind for this month. A lot of energy may go into that area. We got this Justice card again, representing the main themes of the month. So one interpretation that I didn't give for Justice is something that I generally get sometimes, and it has to do with same old, you know, like for the most part, this month may be very similar to how the months have been this year. You may feel like there may be changes in some areas, but you feel like in certain areas, things have remained pretty consistent, or people are showing up the way you expect them to show up. Events are, I wouldn't say they're unfolding the same way they're unfolding, because we do have that Tower moment, so there are some prizes in that area. But for the most part, you may find that a lot of the month may be a little bit routine. Not all of it, but you may find it for the most part that it matches the same vibes as months before. And that's just an interpretation for some of you, not necessarily all of you. And I say that because we do have the lunar eclipse change. So we do know that there are some changes taking place. So it seems like certain areas in your life, some of them might be remaining consistent, and other parts may be going under some major transformations that are taking place. Okay, just want to throw that out there. Lunar eclipse here can mean so many different things. I've seen people, you know, get married on eclipses. Like suddenly they have this hotshot wedding that they are getting married on the eclipse. Some people are like breaking up relationships in a way. Some people start relationships when it comes to the eclipse, or around the time of the eclipses. It can just represent these transformative moments in your life that seem major. Not always, but it can. You know, I've seen people get into relationships around the time of these eclipses, and that is something that has happened for them. And sometimes they have these wild moments. Let me wrap this up. Some people have emotional breakdowns. Some people win the lottery, and some people just clean out their storage units. But I think they're focusing on the heaviness of the eclipse. So there are some powerful changes when it comes to this month, especially since we have that Tower moment. I don't think most of you, that Justice card is the same old. Like I said, it feel like it's just maybe in certain areas of your life. But to me, it seemed like we're striking this instance where we're talking about having some changes start to develop. To me, that's what it looks like. All right, just looking at all the vibes here. Sometimes people feel a sense of burnout, but the eclipse energy is definitely different for everyone. But I do believe that the eclipses focuses more so on major events when we're talking about this card here. Some people have gotten proposed to, I've seen, with the eclipse as well. All right, so I do want you to know that when it comes to the energy of this month. And when we're talking about justice here in general, the theme does seem to be a lot on the personal karma that you will experience this month. Maybe you have to make some ethical decisions as well, because justice does connect to ethics and right from wrong. So it's kind of like forcing you to reflect, to change, if you need to do so. If you need to set boundaries within relationships, this is sort of having this honest discussion, bringing clarity and truth forward. You know, it's all about personal accountability and responsibility when it comes to justice. And there may be a stronger sense of that as you go through the month of July. To me, it also can deal with, you know, social activism. If you feel the need to, you know, look out for the planet and recycle more, or even get into more sustainable uses of items and etc., that's something can happen this month. And, you know, reflecting on any past mistakes as well, internalizing that and moving forward in a more truthful and balanced manner. There's definitely a strong sense of moral compass this month for you when it comes to the Justice card. I really feel that this is also a sense of maybe even calling others out on their BS at work as well. You know, I definitely can see that coming to fruition. And I can also see that, you know, you might even be implementing some, like, let's say you had a business, you're like, I'm going to implement some business practices to help me make decisions, to have this be more streamlined. That's something that can be done here when we see this. But that is what I have for you, pal number 4. Hopefully this resonates. I do expect that there will be some changes in your life this month, especially when it comes to the area of love, loved ones, things that you like to do. That seems to be a major strike when it major area that's going to be moving in a different direction, as well as the finances. So I'm going to wish you the best of luck. So much Libra energy. Hopefully this is more of a balanced month for you. And I will see you next time. Don't forget to check out the lives and check to see if I'm offering private readings. I go live on the weekends, times posted on the community tab. And I hope to see you there. You know, if you have questions that you want to ask, if you want to just chat, I do love to pull you astronauts, and I will see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal number 5, let us get into your July 2025. So I did switch it up a little bit. Instead of the Nakshatra cards, we're doing an Oracle card. We have the 9 of Cups for where you are, the 6 of Wands, reversed for finances, but still not bad. We have the Death card when it comes to your career. We have the 10 of Cups when it comes to love, and the 8 of Swords overall for a feel. And this is the After Tarot deck, so it is a little bit of a twist in interpretation. And our Oracle card is Sagittarius, but let's pull out these Astro dice so we can get more of a feel for what's going on here this month. All right, we have Moon in Gemini in the 7th house. So Moon is in the 7th house in Gemini. Let's start with this. Moon in the 7th house in Gemini definitely brings about more sociability. The 7th house is all about either forming relationships, contracts. It can bring about audiences. 7th house can also deal with elements of travel as well. And we do have Sagittarius here. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, you went out of town this month, okay? And it's very interesting here because when we have the Moon in Gemini, the Moon is a little quirky. You know, it's an air sign, and Gemini is this sign that has like 2 different personalities, as they say. They got 2 sides like a Gemini, right? So this month, it's almost like you're expressing different parts of yourself, or you may feel like you're encountering people who, you know, maybe they smile behind your back and stab you in the face, or maybe they just have a very dynamic personality. So in my experience, Geminis can be very anxiety prone. You know, there's a lot of fear and anxiousness when it comes to the sign of Gemini. There is this background that I've seen a lot of Geminis have. And generally the background has to do with having some negative social experiences, which ultimately lead to that sense of anxiety and maybe mistrust, and always sort of like maybe reading a little bit too deep into things where they may not be it. So some parts of your thinking this month can be, you might be overthinking some things. Sometimes you might be right on the money because, like I said, there's some sort of intuitive instinct with Gemini because of the experiences that they've gone through. And also, Gemini is a sign where there does seem to be a lot of opinions and suggestibility when it comes to, oh no, I don't really think that you're right when it comes to your thinking on that. And you have to decide for yourself what exactly it is that you want to follow. But when we're talking about general events happening this month, you definitely want to think about having a sense of groundedness when it comes to your thinking. And generally, when we have this moon in the 7th house, this can represent really great things when it comes to your career, moving in a different direction, which we already see with the Death card here, or moving in a direction where you're making more contacts. The moon is a card that I've seen to be very magnetic, so it is a good card to get in the 7th house, especially if you want to attract others to you, or if you're someone who is looking to expand on some sort of platform or gain some sort of recognition. The moon in the 7th house is really good for those type of things. Meeting people, networking, making positive contracts. It has to do with providing a sense of empathy within your relationships as well, a deeper understanding. The moon is a very psychological, deep sign, always about uncovering different layers. And since it's in the house of other people, it's like you're uncovering the layers of other people, especially with the sign Gemini there. It's like I'm making efforts to uncover the efforts of other people. I will say though, when we have the moon in the 7th house, it can bring a bit of like copycat syndrome, not particularly for you, but maybe for other people. You may find other people are sort of being mimicky towards you or your way of thinking, or like this follow the leader mentality where there does seem to be a lack of self when it comes to other people. And you may find that you are encountering people who seem to be looking for people to give them answers or to guide them or to give them a sense of direction. So there is a little bit of that going on this month. But this can bring you some fun and interesting circumstances when it comes to the people that you are meeting. You can meet people who are very eclectic. You can meet people who are very much into following a strict sort of social hierarchy. You know how some people can be very cliquey. You may be meeting a lot of people like that. Like if you don't look or sound the part, you can't hang with us and stuff like that. This also can represent also letting new people into your circle as well. People who can provide you opportunities that can be beneficial towards you and any sort of goals or career that you might have, because the 7th house is 10th from the 10th. And so it's a higher version of the 10th house. And thus it has to deal with marketing, has to deal with all of those things I mentioned before, public attention, and areas along the lines of that. Generally, moon in Gemini, depending on the placement in Gemini, will bring about people quite enjoying the things that you have to say. Now, don't get me wrong, it may depend on the placement. It can give you sort of like an Obama type speech in terms of your communication abilities, where people listen in, they're really engaged by what you have to say. And on the other hand, it can still make people engage with what you have to say, but maybe in like a Kanye West type of way, you know what I mean? So it can give a controversial sort of image as well. But either way, it does show that you may be a little bit more out there in terms of your recognition, or just in terms of meeting people and having a lot of conversations and having a bunch of characters to interact with. You may even be finding yourself meeting people who are more intuitive and who are more spiritually focused as well. This can also bring about more scientifically minded individuals who can be very serious and pragmatic as well. The moon is a very flexible sign, so I would even say when it comes to personal relationships, this can make things go in and out too for people. Now, I've kind of talked a lot about that, but I just had a lot to say. But let's go into where you are. We have the Nine of Cups. Well, aren't you the lucky one, okay? So the Nine of Cups, as we talk about where you currently are right now, and maybe a little bit as you move into the month of July, this shows a place where you are feeling happy, bountiful, like you've had a few dreams come true, things that you've wanted to accomplish. You feel as though your cup is full, your cup runneth over, like this big fountain that is spilling with all the cups just pouring about into this beautiful garden under the night sky. Like it just feels as though you have this what do you call it? Wish fountain. Don't you know those fountains? I guess you do this for any fountain, but you see like a big fountain and have all these quarters in, and you throw quarters or pennies or whatever change into it to make wishes. It almost feels as if you're coming from a space where you have a lot of things going for you and you've had a lot of wishes come true. And like I said, that might even spill into the month of July, where you may even have some wishes coming true within this month, because you know where we are kind of spills a little bit into the next month. It's not like we just jump in and we forget and discard everything that happened in the last month. No, it's a continuation of a story, right? And so I love that we got the Nine of Cups too, because it also represents that you're leaving behind some things from the previous month, things that weren't working for you. Because in order to get to the Nine of Cups, we had to go to the Eight of Cups, which means you've decided not to accept certain options or things that would be offered to you, and you've decided to move to a better place where you feel a sense of personal fulfillment. So I love that energy for you, that you're looking at things as what you can get. You're looking out for your emotional peace. You're looking out for your sanity, your stability, your happiness. And we got the Nine of Cups and the Ten of Cups in the same spread. Like, things are happening in July. Things are happening. I love to see it, because to me it seems like a good thing as well. It seems like we have a lot of positivity going on here, a lot of personal self-satisfaction, a lot of moments where you might even just be indulging yourself a little bit, that you've had some great moments where you've enjoyed yourself. Maybe you had been planning for certain things and they came true, or you're planning some things for this month that might come true as well, and things seem to be going smooth and on the right path, and everything's going according to plan. So I love that for you, pal number 5, okay? It's a really good card to have. So it shows that you're in a happy place. And if you're not in that happy place yet, it's probably going to be happening soon, early in this month of July. This can also represent just feeling blessed or feeling satisfied, like you have some things in your life to be grateful for, and you're no longer looking for any sort of validation or emotional fulfillment outside of yourself. You decide what makes you happy and you lean into it, and it brings you a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. Now, when it comes to the area of finances, we have the Six of Wands reversed. Don't be sad or anything like that. The Six of Wands reversed, I actually have found to be quite the positive card. Because I think about all the cards we could have gotten. We could have gotten, you know, the Five of Pentacles. We could have gotten, you know, Ace of Pentacles reversed. We could have gotten, you know, maybe even the Fool, which can be sort of chaotic financially. But the Six of Wands reversed is almost like, I'll give you a quick story. Like one time, I was hanging out with a friend and we saw this event. It was like this pizza party where they were giving out free pizza. at this building. And we get to the building and the line loops the block several times over. We're like, there's no way we're getting into this line to get pizza. But by the time we even get to the door, the event will be over. So instead of getting in line, we decide to go to a nearby pizza shop. And that pizza shop ended up having some of the best pizza I've ever had in my life. That pizza was utterly groundbreaking, delicious. So no, did we get to go to that pizza event and get the free pizza? No. But did we get something that was equally as great? Absolutely. Okay. I don't regret that experience. It was a fantastic time. I still think about that pizza today. So the Six of Wands is about winning, but not in the way that you expect yourself to win. Like, it's kind of like, you know, that example I just gave you where you're just like, I was expecting things to go this way and we get in line and get our free pizza, but you know, this other thing happens and that's pretty cool. I like this too. So sometimes it's getting more than what you bargained for, or things working out in a different way than you had previously planned, but you're still coming out on top. This is one of those things financially where it's just like, you're like, I don't even know how this happened, because I felt like I was making some wild financial decisions this month, but it turns out I get this lucky break and I'm coming out in a good place financially. You know what I mean? It also can be sort of like, maybe if you have a business or you have clientele, this is a way where it's like, you were expecting and projecting to make a certain amount through one sort of avenue in which you have things. Like, let's say you have pencils on your website, you have notebooks, and you have erasers. And normally you make most of your money through pencils. And so you have projected a plan to make this much money from pencils this month. And then by the end of the month, you realize your notebooks are selling out and you're just like, wow, you know, I was expecting to make my money through pencils and that be my bestseller this month, but now notebooks are the bestseller. So it's almost like some unexpected luck is happening in the financial area where things are victorious, but you're like, I didn't expect this thing to grow. You know, things along the lines of that. Like if you have investments, if you have a job, if you have a business, if you have like a tutoring thing you do on the side, maybe the thing that ends up being your dominant source of income actually ends up being the thing that's not bringing you in the most money. Or maybe this is an unexpected raise, or like this was an easier win than you expected. For example, you might think, oh, I'm going to have to go in and I'm going to have to fight for a raise. And the Six of Wands comes in and it's like, okay, they just gave me a raise like that. Okay. And I didn't have to fight that hard. This was an easy victory. Or this was more than I expected when it comes to a raise. So something along the lines of that. But it shows a lot of benefits when it comes to material gatherings and financial things within this month. This can also represent having to possess more things, because this is also representing your possessions, and maybe they don't cost as much as you initially thought they would cost. And maybe the things come to you a lot easier. Maybe you have somebody and you're saying, you know what, I'm looking for a new camera. And then someone's like, oh, I've got a camera, like I was just about to give it away. And you're like, this is exactly the camera that I need. And it could be for whatever item that you're thinking about, but it seems like you're going about getting the things that you want financially, but not in the ways that you had expected, okay? Six of Wands is like things have gone according to plan, the way that I've trained to, the way that I pushed for. Six of Wands reversed is like, okay, I wasn't planning on this, but I like this. And then also when it comes to the self-esteem, it's actually a little bit funny because the six of Wands reversed can equally be a little bit more like braggadocious or even arrogant in a way, but then it can also represent being a little bit more humble and not fully sort of congratulating yourself on all of the things that you have accomplished. In a way, it's like, you know what, I won, but you know, let's keep going to the next thing. I don't necessarily need to celebrate things. The self-esteem is good. with the Six of Wands here. And it does represent celebrating those victories to yourself, even if you're not being celebrated by others. Because Six of Wands reversed isn't necessarily always celebrated by others. It doesn't mean that you won't be. But it may be by a smaller group, or maybe your friends or family send a little congratulations. There's not a big party, or maybe they want to throw a party and you're just like, I don't really need all of that, guys. Thank you so much. Like, it can be a very humble card, but at the same time, like I said, it can also be a little arrogant. It's not as balanced as the Six of Wands upright. You know, Six of Wands reversed can represent, yeah, I did that. That was all me, you know? Like, it's just very much a braggadocious attitude and things along the lines of that. It can also represent, you know, not feeling completely confident that you may get things done, but you manage to do it anyway, because we're still in the Six of Wands energy and it's still powerful. You're still coming from this place, like the Six of Wands reverse is still looking back at that Five of Wands. It's still looking back from that place of struggle. And so financially, this can also represent being scared to take a risk or take a opportunity to make a bigger expense, because in your mind, you're just like, I remember when I was fighting so hard for this. Like, I remember when I was toughening it out, where I had to save and scrimp and scramble to get every single dime. And so you're hesitant to make a bigger purchase and things along the lines of that. Like, that Six of Wands reverse can still be caught in the psychology of that Five of Wands. Like, they're still thinking about those moments that lay heavy on their soul, where things were so hard to get to a better place financially. But I want to say you are in a better place financially this month. Let's move on. You guys know I talk too much. We have the Death card here when it comes to your career. Powerful shifts. No doubt about it. There is some changes coming this month. And as I mentioned before, when we have this moon in the 7th house, and I said the moon goes through phases and it goes through cycles. Well, similarly, it's going through phases and transformations and cycles within your career. You know, we have our new moons, we have our full moons, endings and beginnings. Obviously, the Death card is more closely related to endings, but I guess, you know, if you end something, you begin a new thing. And so there's some transformation happening within your career and in your role. Now, transformations can be tricky. They can be tough, okay? But generally, they are for the better. I know we say it all the time. I know it. All of us tarot readers, and we all say it all the time. But it generally is, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is something that we love. Most people are resistant to change. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's you as well. You know, you're still open because you have this Moon and Gemini-like mentality, and that's a little bit more movable. So it may not be as hard for you. But yeah, this is a tough sign placement, okay? This is about moving on into a new form, transforming the environment that you're currently in. Taking on new positions, new roles, new duties within your career, possibly even, like I said, this is about endings. You might even be ending a chapter on a job, okay? That is quite possible. You might find yourself completely in a different place when it comes to your job situation. It wouldn't be surprised if you're leaving that job behind and you're moving on and letting go of that position. Whatever the case may be, this transformation that is taking place, it's going to be extremely powerful, okay? Because Pluto definitely rules things that are powerful and major shifts. And so when we're talking about this, we're talking about this having a psychological effect for you. I will say the Death card wants things to be lighter. It wants things to be less heavy. It doesn't want things to hang in the balance anymore. It's about making that decision to transform, to change, and to grow. And so even if maybe you're not shifting in roles or changing environments or your job and things along the lines of that, there are going to be some changes in your work environment as well. The company itself could be restructuring. The company itself might have to make some tough decisions. There's a lot of things going on and transformations in the world when it comes to the job environment. So it's not surprised that we're all affected in some way. But we do know this is about letting go. And it may even feel very sudden. It may feel like a shift out of nowhere. Okay, because when we have Pluto doesn't give warnings. Not at all. It is something that can hit you like a ton of bricks. It is a sudden moment. That is why it's like it rules like the house of emergencies and ups and downs and unpredictable moments. And so you may have some even emergencies or unpredictable moments at work, depending on your environment. I know this can happen all the time if you work in like a hospital, right? So that might not be unusual for you. But just expect the unexpected when it comes to the work environment. And as I said, because we have these major shifts going on, it can show that this is causing some sort of emotional transformation within you. All right. But a lot of your cards are very positive. I do want to say that, pal, number 5. Like, to be honest, this is a very good spread. Now, also want to say, this can be some major emotions. And also because 10th, this thing, read it as like career, 10th house, reputation. This can represent a major shift in your reputation as well. What that may be, if I had to say, like, Pluto in terms of reputation can be somebody who is very close to leadership and has a lot of power and control, and somebody who you can't control. Okay, like I said, this is a part of life that is unpredictable and that represents external circumstances that are generally beyond our control. And so people may be looking at you as somebody who is this transformative figure. So I do want to say that in terms of reputation for the month of July. When we get to the love, we got family. We got the 10 of Cups here. That's so great. And this is the after tarot deck. So they're closer than ever. In the before tarot deck, it's daytime. They're hanging out at the park. Nighttime here, they're sitting by the campfire. They're telling stories. They're getting cozy together under the coolness of the night sky. So it's still more bonding, but it almost feels a little bit closer because they're gathering together for a sense of security and comfort. And so you may even find your family and friends to be that comfort zone for the month of July. Feels like you guys are getting cozy together. Feels like you have a sense of support and love and happiness and cherishedness when it comes to friends and family. I should say I read this as people you love, and that can represent relationships, romantic or otherwise. So to me, it shows really great times when it comes to the people that you love. Could be a romantic partner as well, where you guys just feel like you have a good relationship. You're in a happy place. Things are comfortable. Things are good. You feel like this person is that light in your guiding you throughout the dark. Same with friends or family, that they are this light in the dark and they are there to support you and you are there to support them. And you guys are just gathered together to bring warmth and love into each other's lives. So it's actually a really great card to see in terms of love. If you are single, then this can represent that there is a possibility that you are looking to change that, because the 10 of Cups represents new beginnings. And so there's quite a strong sense of, okay, I feel emotionally fulfilled and content within myself. But, I necessarily wouldn't mind if maybe I had a new love come in. Maybe I can bring this love and sense of abundance to someone else. So there is this contemplation when it comes to that. Maybe you are gathered alone in your bed and you're like, I love it here. This is so amazing. But I would really love to share this moment with someone else. I just want more love, more abundance, more care, and more fulfillment in my life. So it does seem as though you might be looking in that direction if you are single. If you're looking, like, let's say things have been tough for you romantically in terms of your relationship, this month you guys are playing cozy family, you guys are playing house. For those of you already in a relationship but not necessarily living together, this could also represent moving in together. That wouldn't be a surprise here when it comes to the 10 of Cups. These people, they come together, they move together. They're a family. They are they are together. They live in the same home environment. So I wouldn't be surprised if you were thinking about that. or even meeting their family for the first time. That is quite possible for some of you who are in relationships where all of a sudden they're meeting your family or you're meeting their family, but it does bring about this sense of fulfillment and happiness when it comes to relationships. And like I said, friendships seem to be good this month. Seems that you guys are spending a good amount of time together. If you have some sort of hobby, you know, the 10 of Cups definitely represents feeling blessed, feeling supported. If you have some sort of client side business, it just generally rules things that you love to do as well. That's how I'm reading this. Then it seems like things in those areas are going pretty well and going pretty smoothly. I just see a lot of happiness. It just feels like you have built a community. So to me, it's like I'm representing, I've built a strong client base. I have built a strong group or community that supports me in my hobby. If you're someone who, you know, maybe you gather on the weekends for some sort of, I'm trying to think of like a hobby. Maybe you gather on the weekends for like tennis. You have a tennis group and you're like, wow, I feel like I've built such a great community. We hang out and we play tennis on the weekend. We gather, we talk about each other's lives. We come together, we support each other, we help each other out. To me, it feels like you're really feeling the pleasure, the enjoyment, the happiness that comes with having a strong community this month. And to me, that's what it looks like. It just feels like harmony, feels like fulfillment, feels like a strong sense of appreciation and satisfaction with the people that you've chosen to surround yourself with the things that you love to do. Whether that is, like I said, play tennis or even just, you know, watch TV or whatever it is like you like to do, bird watching, you know, collecting things. You're just like, oh man, this month, I feel like I've made some real great strides in my collection. I've managed to get this rare artifact and I'm over the moon about it. And it's something positive. It's something about moving in a more positive direction. It may not be this over the top extravagant experience, but generally the 10 of Wands is like, this is better than before. This is better than I expected, or this is moving in a more elevated fashion. This is moving in the right direction towards something that feels more emotional satisfaction. So the camera got a little bit overheated, but as I was saying, the 10 of Cups generally just represents having a strong community. Like you just feel cozy with the people that you love. You feel like you can open up and be yourself, let out your ugly laughs and everything along the lines of that. There's just a strong sense of emotional fulfillment. And if you meet someone this month, it won't feel like a shallow connection. Generally, the 10 of Cups is all about strong affection, gratitude, emotional support, very, very safe feeling card. So it feels like somebody who you can emotionally let up and feel safe around. And it's quite possible that, like I said, if you have a group, a little tennis group, you know, you guys, whatever group you have, clientele, you guys feel a sense of comfort with each other. It's like, okay, you know, we're cool with each other. We have a good support system. We have we feel seen, we feel appreciated. I appreciate you, you appreciate me. It feels like equal balance and love. I do want to go back to the Death card real quick because it just reminded me that the Death card is all about ending toxic cycles. And so if you have like a sort of toxic cycle going on in the work environment, that's changing this month and coming to an end, whether that is the start of things changing or it completely ends this month. Generally, change takes time, but you should start to see changes in that environment this month. It is all about shifting and reclaiming your power. Like I said, going back to that reputation of being someone who is powerful, being someone who gets things done, being someone who is, you really can't ignore, like you have to acknowledge them. And not only that, but I generally get the Pluto card when it comes to career and reputation as somebody who is highly skilled or specialized within their field, someone who is seen as a power player. So just wanted to go back to that real quick. But Eight of Swords when it comes to the overall feeling of this month. Isn't that beautiful? Because this is the After Tarot deck. They're starting to come unbind. And didn't I just tell you that you might even be unbinding yourself from a toxic environment, a job you don't like, a career that you don't resonate with, whatever the case may be. But it's almost like you're coming out of this place where you felt trapped, where you felt like you couldn't express yourself, where you felt like you were stuck in a rut, where you felt like things just weren't moving in the direction that you wanted to, where your thoughts or ideas more than likely seemed as though they would be in conflict with those around you, where there may have been more pushback, where you had to be more strategic when it came to expressing your thoughts, okay? Well, all of that is coming unbind. This whole month is about loosening up. It's about fully expressing yourself. Even if we talk about the moon just being in Gemini, the moon is our emotions and how we feel. And in the sign of Gemini, it's like I'm communicating my emotions. I'm communicating how I feel. I'm communicating my thoughts and what goes on inside of me. Well, this is why you can have very good communication when it comes to people who are moon in Gemini, because they may be great at expressing those genuine parts of themselves that other people may be too scared to say out loud. When we have the moon in Gemini, it's saying, I have the courage to express my emotions. And so this month, you're unraveling, and now you're getting to a place where you have more courage to express your emotions. And the sign of Sagittarius here, not necessarily about expressing emotions, but it is about expressing ideas. And so I feel as though you're putting more of your ideas out there. You're taking more risk and chances in that area, in that realm, okay? I really feel as though this also represents learning and growing this month. The sign of Sagittarius connects to education. So if you're taking any classes this month, actually, I think those classes may go pretty well. Honestly, I just feel as though, I don't know how long the class is, but this part of the month, things are going to go well in terms of that. And I feel as though since your reputation this month is like very Plutonian, you're kind of being more of a standout player within your classes, all right? So I do want to say that. But this can also be a card of traveling. I think I mentioned it briefly about going different places. And then we also have Moon in Gemini, which is very exploratory and likes to go different places as well. We'll say Moon in Gemini is more local, meaning within the country itself. And Sagittarius is more, I'm going overseas. I'm crossing borders. So it just depends on which energy you lean heavier into. But either way, there is a sense of education and expanding your mind within this month, taking more risks, taking more chances. When we're talking about unbinding ourselves from our limitations, there may have been areas where you felt like you had to hold back, or maybe you felt as though your ideas weren't good enough, you couldn't properly express yourself, people weren't understanding what you're saying, might have been some confusion or blockages in different areas of life. Maybe this had to do with your sense of direction, because sometimes the Eight of Swords can represent feeling like I'm confused about which direction to go in. I have so many thoughts, so many anxieties. I'm being pulled in this direction, that direction. I'm not really sure of myself. Well, now we're coming out and we're unraveling, and we're taking the blindfold off our eyes, and there's a moment of clarity where we can see. Sagittarius here deals with vision, foresight. It's like looking at a bird's eye view over the forest rather being trapped inside the forest and all you see is trees. Versus when we take the Sagittarius perspective, the higher perspective, we see everything. We see how everything connects. And so now it's almost like you have a stronger sense of vision. You have a stronger foresight of maybe how you want your future to plan out, how you see things unraveling down the line, maybe a clearer idea of the things that you want and the things that you're desiring, maybe a stronger understanding of your motivations, because Sagittarius can connect to motivations as well. It is also a sign having to connect with spirituality. So maybe you even felt blocked spiritually, and that is starting to unravel, and you're starting to recognize and implement more of your spiritual gifts as well. We also have the sign of Sagittarius connecting a lot to, you know, it's kind of interesting. Sagittarius does connect a lot to money, but it's more like money and connections and benefits as they come from other people, which makes sense because Jupiter is like this generous planet. And you could be generous towards yourself, but generally when we talk about generosity, there's an exchange between two people or two things, right? So to me, it's as though someone here is coming to, oh my God, I just thought about the card. I've just thought about how the person on the card is helping unravel you. And I was just like, Sagittarius is all about helping others. And I'm thinking about Sagittarius and I'm like, duh, the card shows it right there. It's almost like someone is coming through to help you out, okay? And then we also have this 7th house flavor here where I said the moon can be very helpful card, very strategic, somebody very practical, someone who can help you see the light, someone who can help guide you towards seeing all of the things that you are capable of, or more of the possibilities out there for you. When we talk about the swords here, we're talking about a lot of those social houses. We're talking about the 3rd house that has to do with travel, communications, skill sets. So where can I go? How can I use my skills? What chances and risks can I take? It connects to business as well. So I do want to say, if you have a business or something like that, hobbies as well too, general insights, learning, like I said, skill sets. So it's all about learning and things that you can do. Media in general. So there does seem to be like an emphasis on those areas and finding out more possibilities that you can recognize and use your insight, your intellect, your skills in those areas. It connects to the 7th house. As we mentioned here, 7th house is a big theme with you when it connects to the public. It connects to personal relationships. If you are in a committed relationship, there may be a strong focus on that. You may be looking at that relationship from a different perspective, as well as Sagittarius likes to implement its wisdom into relationships. I will say Jupiterian energies, not the best when managing their own personal relationships, but they can bring wisdom into others. But whatever the case is, doesn't matter. Looks like things are good this month. But it's bringing about a new perspective and insights into your own personal relationships as well. And then it also connects to the 11th house, the house of hopes and wishes. And so it may even bring more insights into how you can obtain certain goals and things that you desire within this life, as well as ways to gain more from whatever your goals are. And that can be anything. Most of the times we think of things monetarily, but, you know, let's say your goal is to be famous. Well, then what you gain from that is a sense of notoriety and recognition. And you might even gain, like, you know, free stuff as well. But it depends on your goal. Like, your goal could be a mom, and what you gain from that is, you know, love from a child. You gain wisdom and knowledge and things along the lines of that. So the 11th house is just what you gain from your goals. So you start to look at the things that you can actually gain from achieving your goals. Sagittarius is the sign of I see. It's a sign of, like I said, looking at things from different perspectives and different lights. So this whole month, you are opening your eyes to new possibilities out there for you. And a lot of those possibilities are starting to transform and starting to change and take place this month. And I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if, you know, maybe it was a full transformation this month. Keep that in mind. It's going to be different for everyone as well. And I think that you're starting to let go of some anxieties. You are starting to, like I said, stop feeling like you're powerless. And you're starting to feel more capable and believing in yourself. I feel as though partly it's because you're getting a little bit more validation from others, but then partly it's because you truly believe in yourself. Like, you're starting to believe that you are good enough, that it doesn't matter if people judge you. You have to go for the goal. So you're stepping out of the space of analysis paralysis, and you're taking charge and you're taking more bold moves. It's the time to even open up yourself to others more. So that is what I have for the month of July. Hopefully this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new pal or a new reader. Was a little bit long, but you guys know I love doing these monthly readings. And don't forget, if you want a private reading, just check the forms below. I go live Friday, Saturday, Sunday as per usual. Time will be posted on the community tab by Tuesday night Eastern Standard Time. Post new videos every Thursday. And that's all I want to say. If you want to follow me on social media, links are below. And au revoir.